Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Marquee. We are the Cinefanatics. My name's Robert Adams.
I'm Chris Adams.
And
I'm
tonight...
Paul Preston. Oh, sorry.
You blew it. You blew
it.
Already it started.
All right, redo it. Restart. Just kidding.
That's Adam Witt. Oh, sorry.
Oh, come on. You're going to steal my thunder?
Try it again.
How dare you?
We good?
Twist my arm to watch a La La Land clip 3 times.
That's true. Yeah, right. You are speaking his language. That is his language.
We're on the rails.
Anyways, yeah. We haven't even said who we are yet. We're already off the rails. I love this show. This is my favorite Marquee ever. Yes, this is the Marquee, the show where we tier rank things. Joining us tonight are the one, the only, the most valuable experts.
The only.
Ford knowledge on the internet, the drivers of the Ford Fiesta. That would be the movie guys, Mr. Adam Witt and Paul Preston. Hello, gentlemen. How are y'all doing tonight?
Hello.
I'm doing great.
Paul is currently in a library and Adam is in a bar. If you can't see the two
bar.
opposite ends of that dichotomy.
Welcome to Marysville, Ohio, everyone. I know I'm speaking to a few of the Schmohio people are aware of where Marysville is. And yes, I decided to, instead of going back to a sterile place and putting a real microphone on, I'm staying very close to the Scorpions cover band, which is on the back patio here, which is where my cousin decided to stay while I come to the front part here, which is closing up, hopefully not within the hour. And yeah, so... There's sweeping going on. So I may be in the parking lot by the end of this, but right now I'm in a bar in Marysville, Ohio.
I am in a library, so let me just make that fact even more clear here. I think we can do a couple of things. That looks good.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Much improved.
There we go.
Very nice, very nice. Well done, Adam. If you could change that that James Dean poster, I believe that's behind you. Yeah, if you could change that to Harrison Ford, that'd be great.
I think I could change that to any number of Reds players is what I can do.
Oh, okay. Well, don't worry about
it. Okay, yeah. No, we got. Well, hey, I did find the one movie thing in this entire bar accidentally, by the way.
The James Dean poster.
Yeah, I think it's the one thing from a movie in the entire bar, and that's a total accident. So there we go.
And Indiana Jones and the Big Red Machine, if I'm not mistaken.
So that's right.
And the secret of Ken Griffey's sword.
All right. So real quick, y'all know how YouTube is. You know the YouTube things. Y'all got questions, comments, issues, complaints. Streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. Grab our attention right there. Also, if you would like us to read off your picks and your tier ranking at the end of the program, submit those in streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. Also, there is patreon.com. If you think we are worthy of your support, hop on the tier that is good for you. Please keep in mind, even though it may say a $25 tier is available, don't go higher than $5. You don't need to go any higher than $5, which is the weirdest thing I think I've ever said on the internet. Don't give us more money, just give us no more than $5. So if you choose, that's where a place that we didn't prepare.
Glitch in the system is going away very soon. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think Adam and I will only give you about $5 worth of entertainment tonight, so you don't want to overpay.
Yeah.
You don't want to overpay for that. Yeah.
We're contractually obligated to give you $5 worth of show. If we go over that, it's just not worth it for our talents.
Yeah. Anyways, yes. So again, if y'all want us to read off your rankings, Streamlabs right there. Anyways, so we got a lot of show to do tonight. Let's jump into this real quick. For those of y'all who don't know,
I think you mean we have around an hour of show to do.
We're gonna. Someone called the Guinness Book of World Records. Too. Yeah. Anyways, here.
That's okay. I just might end the show out there with the cover band, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, there's the DMCA takedown. Yes, there are 18 movies we're ranking tonight. Here is all 18. If y'all want to jot those down real quick. These are the movies that we will be tier ranking real quick. So, yep, 18 of them. Yes, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is on here. We're gonna, I guess, try our best to not talk about spoilers for that movie since it just came out like
easily
yesterday.
Done, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I could talk about that movie without spoilers. We did a review for it last night, so it's doable. But
you can talk about the first half hour for an hour and a half. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, here are the rules for tonight. Johnny, is Johnny available to read the rules?
I mean, we'll see.
All right, Johnny. Here's the rules.
Well, rules are simple tonight. You nincompoops, it's 3 films per tier. You got to put 3 films per tier. If you don't get that, I got nothing for you. I don't know how to help you out with that. It's so simple. It's simple.
Those rules rule.
Anyways, so that's how it's going to be. 18 films, 6 tiers, 3 films per tier. Let's go ahead and bring out Carl to bring out the marquee board. Carl, hit it. Still didn't do that right. All right. There we go. Anyways, here's the marquee board. Those of y'all that are not familiar with how tier ranking works, we've got a tier ranking board. All these movies will be basically ranked amongst each other. S being the highest grade, the highest ranked one, F being the lowest. Here's a thing real quick to keep in mind. We are ranking Harrison Ford action and sci-fi movies. So we are using an excerpt of Harrison Ford's filmography. We're not ranking all movies. We're not even ranking all of Harrison Ford's movies. So,
we're not doing Heroes.
So please
not doing Journey to Shiloh.
Dang it.
No Time for Killing.
Yeah.
No Time for Killing.
I did almost consider putting Regarding Henry on this list for fun.
I mean, there's a whole lot of action in that movie. Let's just tell you, Man in a Coma, just full of action.
Failed to regard.
Yeah.
Let's rank movies in which he paints Ritz crackers.
There's no plane crashes in this, so no 6 days, 7 nights. Just sorry.
Yeah.
Well, there's some plane crashes.
There are some plane crashes. Yes.
It's Harrison Ford after all.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to go through these movies one at a time. Everyone's going to give their opinion. Then we're going to average out those rankings and put them in the tier they want. At the very end of this program, we'll go through it one more time and move things around. And yeah, let's get this thing started since this is going to hopefully be an hour long. We're going to kick things off with...
Okay, here's mine. And I just name off 18. I gotta go.
Thanks, Adam. First one right off the bat, the old standby, the classic 1977 Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope.
Baby.
Let's start with Mr. Paul Preston.
Where do I put that?
Yeah, like, what do you like about it? What do you not like about it? What would you rank it?
The most iconic, most childhood shaping, world.
This might be a quick show.
Movie ever made. Yeah, I mean, this is S tier. This defines S tier. When you ask someone what their favorite movie of all time is, you are automatically, without saying it, you're saying besides Star Wars, because it's a whole another level. But since you're not creating a category for itself to appear in alone, we got to go S tier.
You know, Paul, if you don't like a movie, it is okay for you to say you don't like a movie. I mean,
oh, trust me, he has that in his vocabulary. I'm the one that doesn't have that in my vocabulary.
I think you're rubbing off on me, man, because wait till I get talking about some of these other movies. It might be our show or something, but be a softie.
Adam.
Yeah, S tier. This is a dumb question. Not only is Star Wars, obviously it's legendary because, of its legacy. We have now 9 or 13, if you're going by Schmodown rules, Star Wars movies. But this movie is just such a rock star. Here's how good this movie is. This movie is amazing before Harrison Ford enters it, and then it just shoots up in the stratosphere, Before he even sits down and says, Han Solo, I'm Captain of the Millennium Falcon. That movie's already one of the best movies of all time. And once you had Harrison Ford, well, the rest is history. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away is history, but history.
And what ranking you have?
That movie has the balls to just give us bloops and bleeps and Jawas and stuff for like 20 minutes, and then it gives us and like Adam said, it's still great. Then Harrison Ford comes in.
Yeah,
number 1.
It's a rad movie, radical movie. This is the Everything Everywhere All at Once of its time. Like
pop rock.
What did I just see?
There it is.
So you're saying S tier as well?
Oh yeah. Right. S is in Star Wars.
Chris.
So I would be on the same train with them.
But you're younger than us. Go ahead.
Well, if we had more than 3 movies per tier. Here's the thing. I do have a Star Wars movie in the S tier, but it is not the first one. I have a favorite of the original trilogy, and that one is the one I have in S tier. Otherwise, this one is sitting very firmly in A. It's the original trilogy does not go any lower than the A tier. Absolutely not. It is.
A is still a compliment.
Yeah, it is. It is by far probably the most iconic film franchise, I would say, honestly. So it's very hard to rank this thing. Rank the original trilogy less than an A. So I'm jumping in with the A tier.
I did not expect Adam and Paul to be so negative on Star Wars.
I see you.
So Chris is saying A, you weirdo. I do have it in S as well. It's classic, perfect nostalgia. It will always be classic. It will never not be an S tier movie. So yeah, I have an S.
I'm keeping my S tier fairly diverse.
Oh, good for you.
So for the most part, since that is 3 S's.
The neighbors are watching. Put it in A tier.
So that's going to go S.
Okay, so how this works is because 3 of us said S, it goes into S, right? So there's
pretty usually it averages out, and 3 people said S, it's going to go S.
Nice. Okay.
Chris isn't going to have a problem with that either. So
it's almost as if there's a mathematical equation to it.
Yeah. Next one.
It was my understanding there would be no math.
Empire Strikes Back. We're going to start with Adam.
Okay, now hold on a second here because I got because I can't do it on my phone. I got to look at my rankings here and make sure I got this where I think I have it.
What's that?
Look at those ceiling tiles.
And the light above your head looks like the Death Star.
Okay, yeah. This is as I thought. S tier as well, baby. Man, coming off of Star Wars, you make a sequel to a movie like Star Wars. Any other movie would make the same movie but different. This movie is out of control, different. It takes so many risks. It's Han Solo's movie. So is there higher than S tier? Because this is the Harrison Ford movie. But since there's nothing higher, I'm going to go S tier for Empire Strikes Back. Oh, my God. Sad ending. Who had the guts to have a sad ending on a major movie like this? You got all new worlds. You got just all the stuff he didn't have to do. He could have phoned it in. We still would have been there. It would have made exactly as much money. But they didn't. They made all these challenges, things you've never seen before. Unbelievable stuff. You just can't even. Boba Fett. S tier, baby.
Boba Fett.
Where?
Yeah, that's the next one actually. But yeah, anyways, we're a bunch of nerds. Yeah, is what we're saying. So S
like your audience hasn't figured that out.
Yeah. Chris.
Also, same as the first one for me, only I have this one over it in the A tier. This one's the top of the A tier for me. I feel like it's kind of blasphemy to put The Empire Strikes Back in the A tier because I feel like this is like a lot of people's favorite of the trilogy. It's not my favorite of the trilogy, so you can guess which Star Wars movie I have in the S tier at this point. But this one does get about as close as you can get without actually being in it. It is exactly like Adam said, like the fact that they had the guts to end on that kind of down cliffhanger. Empire Strikes Back, I don't know how the phrasing is. It ran so Infinity War could walk, or it walked so Infinity War could run. Whichever one was doing the running and the walking, Empire Strikes Back came first and Infinity War came up second. So yeah. This is again, Star Wars trilogy. They're all up there. This is top 8 tier for me.
Evel Knievel crashed so that it could fly or something like that. Yeah.
I agree. This is a perfect example of being an amazing movie that ends on a down note. In fact, I don't know of too many movies before Empire that did that other than like Shane. That's roughly about all I can think of as movies ending on a downer. Spoilers for Shane, but that movie came out like 1950 something. You've had time. I'm just saying.
Definitely had time to watch Shane.
This movie is amazing specifically because of how much it focuses on Harrison Ford. From saving Luke at the beginning on Hoth, his relationship with Leia, confronting Vader, that iconic scene of the doors open, Vader stands up, Han shoots, and Vader's it's so awesome. And then, of course, the climax of being put into the carbonite. I love you. I know this movie is an S tier movie for me. And
you said
Paul,
S?
S.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to go in A after all that. All right, good.
It's F tier movie.
This needs to land solidly in S, and I think the 3-1 in this Chris is Wrong episode of the Cinefanatics Marquee show.
Starting
Empire
out.
Strikes Back. Look at the
He's
biggest.
got a respectable S tier.
It's going to swing wildly
I'm sure he
here a
does.
little bit.
We don't know.
Challenging.
The Empire
Patriot
Strikes
Games.
Back. Look at Harrison Ford outside of Vader is the biggest character on that poster, and so Han and Vader are really the most interesting things about it. It's like I said, it's Harrison Ford's coming out party in this movie. He's a part of an ensemble in Star Wars, and he's bit parts otherwise until Empire, and then it's just take off the charm, the action, it's all there. And Vader, there's nothing more entertaining than watching Vader dispatch of his admirals.
Yes.
It's the most entertaining thing in the history of fantasy.
He is on such a war path in this movie. It's so entertaining.
It's great. But basically, The Empire Strikes Back never needed to be made. Star Wars wrapped it all up perfectly. The Empire's dead.
True.
They sent Vader into space so they could do something, but they didn't need to. And so to knock it so wholly out of the park with a sequel like this was an achievement that is yet to be duplicated. I think it's the best sequel of all. S tier. S is for sequel. S is for superior.
And also, let's point out, I know we're not really going necessarily behind the scenes on these thoughts on these movies, but it's an independent film. Lucas hated the studios so much for any interference that they've ever done before. He took all his toy money, which nobody thought he'd make any money on to begin with. He completely invented the action figure industry. In fact, the words action figure had never been uttered before George Lucas, and said, I'm going to make this all by myself. That's an independent movie we just put in the S tier there. That's insane. Lucas is the ultimate punk.
Yeah. All right.
Well put. Well put.
Next one we're going to go to, and here's where everyone's opinion of my brother's now going to shift over to me. We got Raiders of the Lost Ark, and we are going to start with my brother.
Yeah, so this one, the whole Indiana Jones, I have the hardest time ranking the Indiana Jones franchise because for me,
Because you're younger than us.
Here's the thing, honestly, that's probably part of it.
Well, yeah, it is.
Because that was the first, the Dial of Destiny was the first Indiana Jones movie that I saw in theaters ever. I didn't even see Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in theaters, so that is to be said. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark, though, for me, like they're all just solidly, they're just solid. There's all of them are just solid, and they're in that group together. I have a hard time ranking them. Yeah, they all just reach that certain point and scratch that certain itch. So I have a hard time like trying to figure out where I put them. There is one in this list that I just had maybe like half a star over the rest. It's not Raiders of the Lost Ark. Apparently I have a thing for the third films in the franchises, so who knows. But Raiders of the Lost Ark, I believe I have...
These aren't just any third films in any regular series you're talking about, so I understand.
Yeah.
They're pretty exceptional.
I have
big Alien 3 guy. All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
He hasn't seen that one yet.
Thank you for that. I have this one right at the top of the B tier. Right at the top of the B tier for me.
Clear and Present Danger probably made it pretty high. That's the third in this series, too.
Yeah, I agree with Chris. I think it's a fun adventure movie. I think it sets the proper tone for Indiana Jones. The script sets, acting, effects, everything is top notch. But yeah, I'm just not a big Indiana Jones fan. I do have this as a B. Let's go, Paul.
This is the best film we're talking about today because it is the best film of all time. I mean, you can't beat Raiders of the Lost Ark for excellence across the board. It's the greatest actor there is in an action role. It's the most iconic character in action.
Of all time.
I don't like the...
of all time.
In terms of making the right choices when they need to be made, in terms of doing whatever it takes, the risk, the awe, the humility, the romance, I mean, it's all there. and the most incredible score. The locations are sweeping. The photography is brilliant. The villains are great in this one specifically, and in most of them, but this one, in the new one, also. But in this one, Belloc and Major Tot are fantastic. There are things you've never seen before in this movie. I could say that the great movies are in action are Terminator 2 and The Matrix, but Raiders set the tone for this. It is the building block on which relentless action in a movie is made. And the best part about Raiders is it isn't relentless action for no reason. It all works towards a goal where the stakes are high and you know them early. The CIA shows up. They say, hey, this is what we need to do to stop Hitler. And off we go. There's no bad writing. There's no overwriting. It is a slim, trim Lawrence Kasdan screenplay that is fantastical. The movie is filled with wonder. It's the greatest movie of all time. This is S tier, unless there's like a T or like yeah.
Is there something higher than S?
No.
Yeah. If any movie could knock off Star Wars for being my consideration for the greatest movie of all time, it would be the movie that's done it over and over. Those two have battled my entire life as my favorite movie of all time. Currently, it is Raiders of the Lost Ark as my favorite movie of all time. This movie is something to behold, but certainly it helps to be my age, it helps to be my generation, and it helps to have watched it over and over and over, studying it deeper and deeper and deeper every time. So nothing against you guys for ranking a little lower. I get it, and I even got with Dial of Destiny that I don't know if this is for a slightly younger generation in terms of appreciation for Indiana Jones movies. I mean, certainly on its own or whatever, people will take it as they do. But boy, Raiders of the Lost Ark, I mean, Paul said it right. Like this current idea where the reason we have 2.5 hour long movies now, the reason The Flash or Dial of Destiny or Avengers is 2.5 hours long is because people have come to expect relentless extra action. Any other movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, any other movie would have ended an hour before Raiders did. And the fact that this just goes from one set piece to another set piece, nobody had ever done that before. And the retro thing is so much more on its face than Star Wars. You know, I had to look up, like, oh, what is Star Wars referencing? You know, but Raiders, I'm just like, oh, I get that this is a very John Wayne kind of like, you know, a thrilling adventure type thing, even though I didn't know the specific references. But it just really works. And in terms of what they were trying to do with Star Wars, I think they even nail it more with Raiders in terms of being a genre piece and serial, you know, cliffhanger, all this sort of stuff. And what a smooth storytelling this movie has. It's just incredible. It's a sight to behold every single time I've seen it. Every single time. Yeah, Raiders. That is the greatest movie ever made, I think. So S tier for sure.
S tier. So we got 2 S tiers and 2 Bs. That actually puts it nicely averaged at the very top of A.
Why did I come on this show?
So I think we were having a poll set up as to how long it would take us getting into this episode before y'all actually said that. Like, why am I here? What the fuck is wrong with y'all?
3 movies in, we got there.
3 movies. Well, it's about to get maybe just a teensy bit worse.
No, if you think you think you guys are going to freak out about your Patriot Games ranking, probably less so than Raiders.
No, it's going to be this one.
It's going to be the Blade Runners, I feel like, are where we're going to hit it. So I'm starting off with this one. I think Blade Runner is a good movie. I will preface this, and this is going to be also kind of my opinion for Blade Runner 2049. I have really bad ADHD. I can't focus on high-minded movies. So like Darren Aronofsky movies, stuff like that, it's very hard for me to get into them.
Well, that's made for ADHD. That was what people complained about at the time. Is like, why is Spielberg and Lucas making movies for ADHD kids?
God damn it, Paul.
They invented the term ADHD when they said that.
Anyways, so high-minded, lofty, ideal movies, or movies that have slow, dramatic pacing while building higher, lofty ideals, that's what kind of just, it brings it down for me. Blade Runner is a good movie. I when I first tried watching Blade Runner, it took me about 5 times to watch it to actually be able to make it all the way through without turning it off. And
Sweet.
like only 5 and not 6. Cool.
Fun.
Listen, he gave it a shot 5 times. That's what needs to be said here.
So
If
like
you
There's
do
any
every
movie you can watch 5
different,
times.
if you could do a different cut each time, that'd be fun.
yeah, seriously. I think all time I was trying to do the final cut. So I was also saying, I know that I think my brother also only watched the final cut. So this is based off of just the final cut of it. I also did that before running a YouTube channel. So those are my honest tries at trying to watch Blade Runner, and not I have to watch it because we're doing this Marquee and I have to rank it, which is the case for 2049. It's a good movie. It's just way too high-minded and slow for me. I like more straightforward type movies instead of lofty ideals that require in-depth thinking, reflection, and multiple watches to get through it. That being said, it's enjoyable, but I do have it as a D.
Ooh, D. Down goes Frasier. Down goes Frasier.
So, Paul.
Blade Runner is an. I'm sorry. What did you? I had to step away for a sec. What is your ranking letter?
I said D.
Ow.
Yeah, I know.
D is in dang is right.
I can't imagine where he ranks La Ventura, but anyway.
Blade Runner is a solid A. I mean, it's one of the always considered one of the great science fiction movies of all time. It is a unmatched futuristic vision, and those who try to match either fail or rip off. Ford does a great job of underplaying the I don't know. It's almost like it seemed like he was already being grumpy in 1982. You know, we get grumpy for it now, and it's the greatest. He kind of was like always bothered when people came and tell him to do stuff. He was yelling at his boss who gave him this job. You know, and it was just fun to watch him dig through the seedy LA of the future 2019. And it's filled with good actors. It looks impeccable. Ridley Scott working at the top of his powers. This is a fantastic, complicated movie, although not too much. There's really just robot people, and he's got to pick them out from amongst the regular folk and eliminate them. That's about it. So I think, if you haven't seen this, don't be scared off by its complicatedness. It's pretty easy to get.
It's very simple. It's a lot of pretty pictures. Really.
Yeah, they're tired of being used as slaves, so they revolt, and then he's got to knock them off, and he sets out to find them through the city. Rutger Hauer.
Why would you talk about the plot, though? It's pretty pictures.
It is that too.
It is a gorgeous
I give it an A. Yeah.
A. Okay. Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like everything about it, the acting, the looks, the visuals, the music, Vangelis soundtrack and score, all top notch.
It's literally just the pacing for you.
Yeah, it's just the pacing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's not necessarily high-minded.
You're not wrong. That's not wrong.
Yeah. Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this. We were on Allison Salamoni's show, and I do not think that boring is a negative. There are movies that are boring in style, but I love them. I love tons of boring movies. I used to hate boring movies when I was a kid, but I've learned to love boring movies. And I don't think boring is a put down. Boring is like a style. Like Blade Runner is a movie that lulls you into its world and lulls you into, and as Paul said, it's a very simple plot. That's why it's mostly tone. It's mostly, and the same thing with the Apocalypse Now. Apocalypse Now is a masterpiece. It is, however, boring. But I don't think that's a put down. It's because I love boring movies. There are certain, what was the Zabriskie Point, which is a movie that Harrison Ford was supposed to be in.
The Insider. There's tons of
right. Yeah, Michael Mann movies can be very,
All
very
the President's
boring.
Men.
Very boring movie, and I love that movie. But and not for everybody. So yeah, Blade Runner is a boring movie, but the more you go, I think there's something here, and then watch that boring movie again, then the boring falls away because you start becoming extra thrilled by the vision. But I know that's me talking to someone who's seen it 15 times and made my peace with the fact that it's not going to be Star Wars, early on, and now I'm watching it knowing I'm just going to get this visual feast and everything, and a certain type of storytelling style, which is not Raiders at all. So this goes B tier for me. It doesn't rise to the occasion, but again, these are all bangers. Everything but the Fs are all bangers, so B for me.
Chris.
I'm sitting here this entire time while everyone's talking, trying to figure out how I'm going to phrase where I'm placing this, because...
what do you think of Andrei Tarkovsky's Stalker? It's like...
I can't believe you brought up Zabriskie Point. Like, the most interesting thing about that is Pink Floyd doing the soundtrack.
Well, you are not... But imagine Harrison Ford being the lead in that movie. Anyway, that's my obsession with that one. Because he was originally cast as a lead, as a pilot of a plane. But anyway.
This is one of those movies that I wanted to somehow fit into my schedule to rewatch before doing this Marquee, and I just couldn't get around to it.
Too boring to do that.
And honestly, I think a big part that is going to probably affect where I put it. I think the way this works out for me, and we're going to see this, I think this is going to be great insight to my taste as a moviegoer, is that this list for me, I'm going to spoil a little bit, is kind of, in a way, bookended a little bit by Blade Runner. Where in one movie I have very high, one movie I have very low. And I think that gives a lot of insight into how I appreciate these different films and whatnot. For me, after having seen 2049, I do actually want to go back and rewatch this movie again and give it another go at, appreciating what this movie does do. Until I do that rewatch, though, for right now, for where we're at, this is all the way at the bottom of the list for me because of the pacing issue, because of all that stuff. I think if I give it another shot, I think it will actually end up bumping up this list. But for now, it's at the very bottom for me.
So you're trying to say the letter F without
I
saying
didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it.
Young people.
So he
seems
said
like
F.
I don't appreciate movies, but I do.
So that is averaging out the scores. And in case Garth is watching, yes, I am doing the math on this one. So averaging out the scores, that puts this in the C tier. Which I can't wait for PLD to hop on here and be like, what the hell's wrong with y'all?
Exactly.
Oh, I will defend myself, and quickly.
He wouldn't be wrong.
And I will defend your right to defend yourself.
And that's the thing, too. Again, like at the very end of this, we can look at the list as we've got it at the end and kind of like if we feel like as a whole, we should shift some stuff around. Yeah. We do have the freedom to do that at the very end.
All right. One more time, let's go back to a galaxy far, far away. Return of the Jedi. Let's start with
83,
Paul.
baby.
This is an A. I couldn't go full trilogy. I mean, I think you know that now because I wanted Raiders in the S tier. So that knocks Jedi down to A. But it is, this is the beginning of the goofy shit that starts to appear in our favorite blockbusters. From belching aliens to, just nutty stuff. That being said, there's nothing greater in the Star Wars trilogy than the OG one, than the arc of Luke Skywalker. And its fantastic close here is to what, to me, makes the movie. Even though Harrison Ford's in it and he's, acting like he's, goofily in love, which he is. That solid arc of Luke Skywalker and the final confrontation with Vader make this a great film. And we just watched this in the theaters recently, and it was such a great rewatch with the fantastic space battle at the end. It's and like most of them, doesn't have filler. These three movies are just all business, and that's how this, and wrapping things up, that's how you need it to be. So Return of the Jedi does its job in high fashion. I put it in A.
Adam.
It's going to be A tier for me as well. I mean, this movie as a kid was so much more made for kids or for the age I was than Star Wars was the age I was when I saw that. where Empire was the age I saw that, or even Raiders, the age I was I saw that. This one was just such a home run for the age I was. But obviously, now as an adult, I recognize the masterpiece quality of Empire and Star Wars more than this. But man, seeing it in theaters recently, I was like, you know, you can go onto an intellectual journey with Star Wars or Empire or why this works or whatever, but you're like, Return of the Jedi is just smiles. Like, I just smiled until my ears hurt. My smile was so wide when I resaw it in the theater. I'm like, this is just here to entertain, fun. There's Ewoks. There's, you know, Jabba the Hutt. That opening, that first 30 minutes, oh my God! That, and talk about like mastering its style of being a serial, of putting the whole plan together to rescue Han Solo and everything like that. Oh my God, it's so good. And then, yeah, Death Star 2, love that. And the lightsaber fight at the end with Luke as a masterful Jedi. Oh man, Jedi is just like, it's so perfect. You're right, goofy shit. But it turns out, I think they always wanted more goofy shit in this. I feel like it was the constraints that didn't allow them to put as much goofy shit in Star Wars and Raiders. We're just like, here's less goofy shit. And they're like, well, we tried, but we didn't have the budget. You know, whatever. So, yeah, that's A tier for me.
All right, and Chris.
It's funny because here's the literally almost every reason that Adam just mentioned is why this is my favorite Star Wars movie. I think this is the one that just played. Honestly, it played the best to me when I was a kid, and I think growing up, it falls into that nostalgia spot for me, and it'll never leave. It doesn't matter what Star Wars movie they make now. I like all Star Wars. All Star Wars is great, but stop it. Harrison Ford's not in that movie. But yeah. For me, I think I don't see this movie ever being unseated for me as my favorite, as the best Star Wars movie for me. It's that reason why this movie is easily at the number one spot. I mean, that whole intro, the whole Jabba the Hutt, saving Han situation. Yeah, we see Luke come in and become just like this badass Jedi that we wanted to see him become from the very beginning. And that fight with Darth Vader at the end, and then Darth Vader's turn and throwing Palpatine down and just becoming
so good. And you don't even get Palpatine or Jabba till this movie, which is so cool. Like, they held off 2 movies for these major characters that were referenced the whole time.
Yeah,
it's awesome. It's such a rewarding experience.
It's overall like probably, I think this might be like the best third movie in any trilogy for me ever, and by all means, I think this is easily my number one on this list. It's
sorry, Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah, sorry, Clear and Present Danger. Sorry.
All right.
By
So
the way,
I
should tell you guys, there's a guy that looks like Bobby Gucci, and it's very distracting.
Oh my God! Is it Gucci?
Each time he walks by, I'm like, oh, no,
Midwest Gucci.
It was
Midwest
Gucci.
There's a Midwest Gucci here.
That's great.
What are you doing in Ohio?
Buying it.
Fair enough.
Golfing and buying it.
That's awesome.
Fair enough.
He's a real Al Chervik from Caddyshack, right? Like, in terms of he's not exactly Dangerfield, but like the style of like, only reason I'm here is maybe I'll buy this place.
I like this bar. Buy.
All right. So, oh wait, I haven't given my opinion yet. Apparently, that's needed for this. I mean, y'all said everything I was gonna say. This is actually kind of like what Chris was saying. This is my personal favorite, also, and that might be because of my age at the time when I first saw it. I was into the goofy shit, the Muppets, the creatures. I loved Jabba's palace. I liked the Ewoks. I had fun with it. Let me see. I think it's a satisfying end to the trilogy. I very much love that Luke and Vader fight at the end. It is so good. The redeeming of Vader, taking off the helmet, tell your sister that you were right, whatnot. I think it's all great. I do still have this movie. Yeah, I have this movie as an A instead of an S, even though it is my personal favorite of the original 3. I'm only ranking it as an A now because they got rid of Yub Nub.
I was just about to say it. I was just like, the reason you're not putting an S right now is because they got rid of Yub Nub.
If they put Yub Nub in there, it would have been S tier, but y'all got rid of Yub Nub. and
I
I
was
get
going
rid
to say,
of the
I
S
am
tier.
not basing any of these on the special edition. I'm not basing these on no or Luke screaming when he falls after he jumps from the down the clown. All those bad choices in these special
I believe,
editions.
guys,
I'm not
the
behind.
Yub, you keep saying Yub Nub, but I believe Lopty Neck is the bigger exclusion there. Like, I can accept the one at the end there, but Jedi Rocks, I'm like, what the is that?
Oh yeah.
Wait, if we were basing these off of like any like special editions or anything, then I want to bump up my vote for A New Hope for McClunky.
McClunky. That wasn't the special editions. That was the Blu-ray release.
No, I know. I get that. It's the special editions plus.
Yeah.
The Disney
I think,
Plus edition.
honestly, with McClunky, I think Lucas is now doing bits. Because that's the weirdest edition, and he's just like, nah, now we're just doing bits. Because I'm like adding, like he knew everyone hated the no from Revenge of the Sith, and then he puts that into Jedi, and you're like, well, now you're doing bits. And then we came to McClunky, I'm like, all right, now you're doing bits. Now you're just seeing if anybody will say this on Twitter the next day.
Stop screwing with us.
Yeah.
All right, next one to go to, we're going to start off with Adam. It's going to be Temple of Doom.
Oh, okay. Let me confirm. Where am I? Temple of Doom. Yes. Okay. Boy, I really fell in love with this recently on the Ford Fiesta, available on all podcasting platforms. But this one, I'm completely in love with as a kid because this got to be my sequel. Like we discovered Raiders, and then we got to wait. We knew by the time Temple of Doom came out, we knew they made sequels to these things because we'd already seen Jedi and Empire, and we're like, oh my god, I can't believe they're making a sequel. So I was obsessed with it as a kid, and then I totally bought the hype once I got to school and we started talking about it. It's like, oh no, that's the less serious of the ones. Raiders is so much more serious. And then Paul and I watched it again recently, and I was like, this does exactly what Empire does. This is just an absolutely crazy. It does not do the same but different. It offers you a whole new experience that is absolutely insane. Doesn't phone any of it in. It takes the challenge of doing all the crazy stuff it's doing, and it's like it's own movie. It's just Indiana Jones is in it, which I think was the criticism at one time. But I love the format of and again, they're always taking some sort of like classic sort of Bogart style, or in this one, I think it's basically like it happened one night. Like the guy that ends up with the showgirl and has to deal with her on the road and everything. But then there's people ripping people's hearts out. He saves like in Indiana Jones. All he does is rescue the Ark in the other, or he doesn't do that in Raiders. But in this one, he rescues like 150 kids and brings the life back to a village. You're like, oh my gosh, it's just like there's so much great stuff in this movie. Totally fell in love with it. Unfortunately, because of like all of the great movies we have here, this is when it's going to go in A tier for me. But I think it might have been B tier a year ago to where we watched it again. I love this movie. It's so good. It's amazing. And now Ke Kwan. Oh my gosh.
William Harold, this is the second best Dan Aykroyd movie.
Dr. Jones. How are you doing?
Okay, where did you have it on the ranking?
I think we're going with A tier. A tier on that one.
Okay.
Sorry,
Chris.
my watch. If I turn it on my phone, it'll take me off the camera.
For me, this is my least favorite of the original 3 Indiana Jones movies. That's not to say I think it's bad. I think it's actually really great. I think they're all fun. They've all got something good about them, for sure. This one, if I watch the first one, if I watch Raiders and I watch Last Crusade, this one for me feels, it might be odd to say, but it feels the most out of place next to those other two, because I feel like it's its own vignette. It's its own like very specific film, not necessarily attached either way to either one. Whereas Raiders and I think
they all are now.
Well, keep in mind, Temple of Doom takes place before Raiders, so it's kind of a prequel, if I remember correctly.
Does it?
Such a technicality.
It does.
Takes
But
place
that's
in
such
the
a
30s.
technicality.
Oh, I'm sorry, not, the earlier 30s.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It's only a prequel because they don't want to deal with Marion. That's like the only reason it's a prequel.
That makes sense.
It's not like, oh, that's how he got the whip. I mean, there's none of that,
Yeah. But how did he get the hat? How did he get the name Indy? Oh wait, we answer that in the next movie. Never mind.
It all
he didn't
happened
want to
in
say
an hour's
Chewbacca.
worth of time.
He didn't want to say Chewbacca, so he calls him Chewie. Got it. He didn't want to say Short Round the entire time, so he calls him Shorty. Got it. Yeah,
That
so
didn't stick.
this one I thought was still fun. It's still fun in its own right, but it doesn't rank the highest for the original three for me. Let's see, I have it top of C for me. It's top of C tier for me on this one. The only thing that made me want to put it a little bit higher was because of this movie, we got the really wholesome moments between Harrison Ford and Ke Huy Quan nowadays at award ceremonies and stuff. So,
that bumps it, man. That's a very special thing that happened in the year of Dial of Destiny.
Yeah.
Very special.
So I kind of agree. I think Temple of Doom is more fun. I think they scaled back what they did with Raiders, and they made it more like openly accessible to everyone, because I think there's a lot more intrigue in this that like maybe younger people might be more interested in compared to Raiders. So I think it's fun, and a lot of that's because the whole ritual, the cult stuff that's in this. I really love the opening at the nightclub. I think that's probably because that's almost like James Bond-esque, which is funny because I don't necessarily like James Bond either. I just really haven't watched any James Bond.
Spielberg doesn't like you.
Did.
Yeah.
Big time.
But I mean, it's a fun movie. I do remember playing like the video games, the Nintendo video games that relied heavily on Temple of Doom, especially because a lot of those video games had like a section of it that dealt with like riding around in the coal mine carts, like they do in this movie. So I had a lot of fun with that, but otherwise, yeah, this is, again, Indiana Jones. I'm not a big archaeology adventure type person. This is a B for me. Let's go.
This movie doesn't have a lot to do with archaeology, but anyway, I'll just
Yeah.
I don't know much about the Sorcerer's Stones. I mean, I'm sure they were really important.
So go.
Well, as a
Paul.
huge Indiana Jones fan, it still lands in B for me because it was a lesser effort. But like Adam, I'm warming up to it where I hadn't before, along with another Indiana Jones movie we will talk about. But it was again, things were getting goofy by this one, but it's just hitting me now that I saw all of these movies in the theater, and I saw Temple of Doom 6 nights in a row before you guys were even born. I'd seen it 6 times already. So and it says, I need $3. Where can I get $3 so I can go again? Because the level of action in this movie, I mean, one up the Raiders. I mean, it's unparalleled, the amounts of action. I mean, the set pieces, the bridge sequence, the nightclub, the mine cart, the fights with the thuggies in the mines. I mean, just one after the other. It's just crazy sequences, and jumping out of the plane and landing in the water. It was relentless. I needed it every night for clearly a week. So then I started to grow, and I went, this is kind of silly. But now I'm looking back at it like, I don't care who you are. You're not making this in 1984 unless your name is Steven Spielberg, and it is super impressive for what he did. And so I put it at a solid B.
I mean, who would have done a sequel like this? It's just crazy. It's just so experimental in a weird way, even though it's just purely for entertainment and everything. But
And they didn't want to revisit Nazis, and so boy, they didn't.
Well, and also they changed the game in terms of whether it's a religious artifact or whatever. It made it personal only to the story of this movie. Of like Indiana Jones has to be, and when he arrives at that village and everybody puts his hand on him because he's a god who arrived from the sky, you're like, Indiana Jones is, he's always been like my hero. I love him as a hero, and you're like, wow, they consider Indiana Jones to be their hero. Will he save us? And you're like, yeah, he's gonna, because he's Indiana effing Jones.
All right, so next one, because we're not done talking about Indiana Jones yet.
Last
Crusade.
Good for us.
We are going to start with Chris.
So like Return of the Jedi, this is my favorite of the original 3 Indiana Jones movies, and I think a large part of it goes to just kind of like there's like a twisty nature to this story that I really enjoyed. A lot of times movies with like great twists usually have me pretty hooked. So you've got that. You've got the addition of Sean Connery here, which Sean Connery just honestly, like, I think both Sean Connery and Harrison Ford, I think, are comparable in the way that they might be in a bad movie, but they are not the reason the movie is bad. They are both all-timer greats, and
I don't know if Harrison Ford's in a bad movie, but
that is arguable. that is arguable.
Something's gonna have.
I'm sure there's one.
I would think that so I'll put it this way: if there's a movie that you might not like that Harrison Ford is in, Harrison Ford's not the reason you don't like that movie.
Right. That's true. That's very true.
Let me word it that way.
Terrence stamp of approval is what I used to call that, which is if no movie is bad while Terrence stamp is on screen.
Yeah. Enough said about that, Perfect.
Yeah. You said it well. You said it well too.
I think Sean Connery has that same kind of thing going on with him as well. This one, so yeah, like the rapport between Indy and his dad is just fantastic.
Incredible, right? Whole different level.
The adventure of this movie is a lot of fun. And then, of course, you've got just very iconic, very fun beats. Big one going around Twitter was that funny cut between Indiana talking about, oh, my mind is blanking on the character's name right now. I feel so bad.
We'll help you.
His coworker.
Solid?
No, his coworker at the college at the university.
Marcus Brody.
Brody, that's right. Yeah. God, my mind blanked on Brody while I'm live. I hate that. The whole cut of him saying,
"It's all right, we're not competing anymore."
Exactly.
Thank God, right? Just give your mind a break.
That whole "you'll never catch Brody, he'll disappear."
Right.
That whole thing's going around on Twitter right now, and then the cut straight to him like, "Hey, does anybody here speak English? I don't know."
One of the great cuts in cinema history, right?
That whole bit is so funny.
Spaceship to Bone in 2001.
Right.
Matchstick to Horizon in Lawrence of Arabia. And cut to Marcus Brody.
But it's such a perfectly executed joke.
Yeah.
And because Harrison Ford delivers with all that gravitas, with any luck. And who can deliver that line like Harrison Ford in order to kick off that punchline,
The
so
camera
good.
panning into him for the growing intensity. And then he's just lost
any luck. He has the grill already.
Which real quick, and I'm surprised we haven't played this yet, but I still think like the best insert Harrison Ford comment has got to be,
I made some pancakes if y'all want some.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Fuck yeah, I want some pancakes.
Oh my God! Everything he says and everything Ted McGinley says on that show is drop dead funny. Two of them.
It's so good.
That one line is just.
I love that show. I love that show so much.
I want some pancakes.
I had to pause. Yeah, complete side note. I had to pause that show while I was watching that episode because I was laughing so hard.
He's so perfect.
But yeah,
how is he able to do every new thing so well? That's a completely new mode for him, and he's fucking nailing it.
Probably gonna get
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Anyway,
Guy's gonna win an Emmy. First TV show ever. He's gonna win an Emmy. Anyway,
I wouldn't doubt it.
The guy's incredible. He's just the greatest actor of all time. Anyway.
Last Crusade for me is again, it's my favorite of the Indiana Jones movies. It's in the S tier for me.
Yeah.
All right. Chris is saying S. For me, I would agree. This is my personal favorite of the three original. Just Sean Connery makes this so much more fun. The bouncing off of dialogue between Harrison Ford and Sean Connery is so good. I I do
Right.
love the fact that this is another movie that they get to beat up on some Nazis again. I'm always a big fan of movies that beat up on Nazis. So whether it is Raiders, this movie,
I don't
Sisu,
even- yeah.
Inglorious Bastards, like I
Exactly.
just love beating up Nazis.
I don't
Just-
even need
Killing
Indiana Jones.
Nazis.
Yep.
Yep, killing Nazis. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. This movie did have a standout in that it had a lot of like little vignettes of like set pieces that contributed to a larger story, and I think all those little set pieces were a lot of fun. Kind of like what I said, I like the bar scene at the beginning of Temple of Doom. There's like little scenes throughout this movie I absolutely love. Everything like the dialogue that takes place on the Zeppelin when he throws the Colonel out and does the whole no ticket thing. I love it. It is so much fun. So yeah, this is my favorite of the original three. I have Last Crusade as A tier.
You left just when you were getting interesting.
Yeah.
Well, fine. What are we going to talk about?
Paul.
This is B tier for me. Both the sequels land there, and it's only because, like I put the originality of Blade Runner over these two sequels. And there's another movie I still think of Harrison Ford's done that's a little better than this. Obviously, we'll get to that later. But Last Crusade is. I was working at a movie theater when this came out, and it's just always close up the register at the concession stand, shut the popcorn bin, and go in, because I had to hear the reactions to some of the most amazing moments of the movie, and night after night, just watching people howl and guffaw and get excited and freak out. It was the best, So this is a roller coaster action thrill ride. But I put it at B. Not as good as Raiders. Better than Temple of Doom, but again, Temple of Doom kind of creeped its way up to B, where I think Last Crusade would always be there for me. So that's where I put it.
All right, Adam.
Okay, so surely because the enormity of the career of Harrison Ford, this is ending up in A tier for me. But this movie, the script for this movie is so out of control good. The dialogue exchanges, the way that, first of all, the idea that Spielberg wanted to make a James Bond movie, ended up making Indiana Jones instead, and only to bring Sean Connery after the Shawnaissance of the late 80s into this movie. Such perfect timing, and the way these two work off of each other, and the fact that that he sleeps with Ilsa, the reason he knows she's a spy, and that the son is the goofball, and the way those two go back and forth and play the adventure off of each other, and then eventually does something an Indiana Jones movie has never done, which is those two find respect for each other. It deepens Indiana Jones. It gives you his father. It's like it's out of control how good this movie is, but because of the sheer amount of great Harrison Ford product here, that's the tier it goes in. Incredible, though. What that script, out of control.
So that fills up our A tier right there.
And that's our hour. Guys, this was great. We'll see you.
All right, good night. My cousin's back with popcorn. Perfect time for a movie.
Next one to move on to, now that we're finally out of the Star Wars, Raiders, and Blade Runner franchises, let's start a new franchise.
We're not on Blade Runner yet.
Well, yeah, we'll be back in Blade Runner and Indy and Star Wars. We'll come back to all of them, but
true.
Let's start with the Jack Ryan franchise. So we're going to start with Patriot Games, which is this one starting with me? Is this 8? This is 8, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Patriot Games starts with me. Good thriller. I had a lot of fun with this. There's a lot of good, edgier seat drama, especially it's not really a highway chase. It's more of trying to quickly find the mom and the daughter on the freeway through the phones, which this movie came out in 92. Cell phones weren't that prevalent at all. The only way you had a cell phone in the car is if you were Jeff Bezos rich at the time. So yeah, I like this movie for the thriller aspect of it. It is very 90s. Like this movie is just a complete like time capsule of 90s thrillers, which I absolutely adore. In fact, there's so many more that I haven't seen, and I can't wait to dive into them. But also, I would have to say the other thing I really love about this movie is the best use of the score from Aliens I've ever seen since Aliens.
About that. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
So it was when they played that scene, there's a shot. It's Jack Ryan sitting in his office going through paper, and I was like, why does this music sound so familiar? So I'm like, thing. And I can't quite piece it together. I know I've heard it before, but I can't quite tell where.
It's almost 100% lift from Aliens. Certain
it is.
Of it.
Well, it's James Horner. James Horner did the score for both Patriot Games and Aliens. He's just reusing his score again. But I was like, why? This is a song that played to like psych people up for the colonial Marines going to after the colonists and like kicking ass with all the aliens and stuff. And here we're using it in a scene where he's looking through papers. It's so weird, but I have Patriot Games as a C. It's a lot of fun, but it's just the only reason this is a C is Harrison Ford has so much better movies. Indiana Jones, Star Wars, yada yada. So, Paul, can
Adam kill his audio or no? Are you with us?
Sorry, okay. I thought.
Okay. So but I put it in C as well for that last thing you mentioned. There are just so many good movies here.
The aliens?
Like the good movies are going to bleed all the way down into F, really. So it's kind of crazy. He's just so good. But this is Harrison Ford. Now the adults are in the room. If you look at the movies we put up there, there's sci-fi and crazy adventure and fantasy and outer space. Well, now Harrison Ford is, he clearly has done dramas by now. Great ones like Witness and Frantic and Presumed Innocent. And now he's combined that adult tone that he really purposefully, it seems, tried to pursue after Temple of Doom and ties it back into action. So, this is a great movie. The rewatch on this was fantastic. If you haven't seen it in a long time, the scene where they take out the terrorists in their camp, all seen on screens, and, Harrison Ford having to give the go-ahead to kill people, and you can see the weight of that choice right on to just being a kick-ass, revenge story full of action. This movie is great. I liked the sequel more, but a great solid outing for his first go and up to as Jack Ryan. So, but because, look at the great movies on top of it. They have no choice for it to slide down to C, but that's where I put it.
Yeah.
It's better than that, but with he's a danger unto himself with the competition. So he's created his own worst enemy and trying to rank everything high. So,
All right, Adam.
All right, I'm gonna step outside here. We are leaving the bar, but okay. So here's the thing with Paul covered.
Are you
half
leaving
of
the
my
Wi-Fi? Yes.
I'm tethered to my cousin's phone here.
All right, you're back.
Did it break up?
It froze immediately. That's pretty funny.
No,
all right, go ahead.
Wait, is he on the Wi-Fi here? Hold on. Let's find out. Oh, he is. We'll find out what happens here. Okay, so Patriot Games, the thing is, I don't like, yes, Paul is correct. This is the synthesis of everything Harrison Ford has done in his time away from sci-fi and that sort of stuff. And that's all fine and good, and that's great about Patriot Games. However, amongst the list we're talking about here, it is definitely lower than a lot of the other stuff. And the thing is, I don't like it as much as Clear and Present Danger, which puts Patriot Games down to an F. Something's got to be an F.
Oh.
Sorry.
Clearly, there are movies here you haven't seen. I think that's true, right?
Oof.
There are, and those all get Fs. But yeah.
Ouch.
But I think they get Fs anyway. The ones I haven't seen, the two I haven't seen. But anyway, so yeah, Patriot Games unfortunately joins two other movies that I haven't seen, but I think I'm ranking them appropriately anyway. Yeah, and Clear and Present Danger edges it out, so I think you can tell what Clear and Present Danger gets. So yeah, unfortunately, Patriot Games, for as genius as it is, gets down to an F. Something had to be an F. Something, guys, had to be an F.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I would just put all these movies at SA or maybe B, and then maybe a C or 2. But we can't do that. With
that's what I was wondering.
With your number limitations of 3.
That's what I was wondering if, like, getting the two of y'all on here might have been like a little bias based on it. Since, like, you run a whole channel that is based around Harrison Ford love there. So
this is a bold choice,
Well, no.
though. This might be the moment of the show so far. Adam giving Patriot Games an F.
I
And
mean,
then
look,
poofing.
all Harrison Ford movies are better than
Like,
all
look.
other movies, but
So let's go with Chris.
So for me, likewise, I do enjoy Clear and Present Danger more than Patriot Games. I'm glad everybody else has been saying that so far. It's for me, this one was good. The way I described it when I first watched this for this list was that this felt to me like a movie that, it's a Sunday afternoon, kids are playing out in the yard or whatever, what have you. Dad's sitting in the living room just scrolling through the TV channels, runs across TNT, and this movie happens to be on in the middle of the afternoon on TNT. That's the kind of movie this felt like to me, is one of those that would show up there.
that's the Tom Clancy effect. That's dad movies, dad books. That's the Tom Clancy effect.
I think, yeah, and I think that's it. It's the dad nature of it. It's a good movie. I did enjoy it. I thought it was very, very well done. But like you guys have said already, compared to everything else on this list, it does not fare better than most of the movies that are on this list. For me, it is in the D tier. And on top of that, obviously, Clear and Present Danger I like more, but we'll get to that in a second.
All right, so I'm sorry, I didn't know math was going to be required tonight, but
How many marquees have we done? You should know. You should know now.
It was my understanding that there would be no math.
well, there is math, and good thing I scored an A+ on my AP algebra back in grade school. So this puts Patriot Games in the D tier.
Woo!
According to math.
And me.
Don't blame Chris, blame math.
And me.
Or you can blame
Blame Harrison Ford for having so many good movies. That's how good his movies are. Patriot Games is down to a D.
Yeah, and that's the thing I feel like I was wanting to convey at the beginning of this. Even the movies that I feel like are F tier are still highly enjoyable movies. They're still watchable, but
Yeah, they're Harrison Ford movies.
I mean, do you know how much harder this would be if we did any movies that weren't action sci-fi?
I mean, I'm just going to be honest and straightforward with everyone. I'm not looking forward to ever having to tier rank Pauly Shore movies. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, how much harder this would be if these were Dennis Hopper movies. Yeah.
Anyways, next one, we are going to go with The Fugitive. Who are we at now for this?
I think it's me.
Yes.
And I'll jump in to say this is the one that pushed Crusade down to a B for me, because The Fugitive is solidly in the A tier. This is a rock solid entertainment. It's one of the best just drama, adventure, action movies that you could ask for. I mean, that also got nominated for Best Picture. I mean, that's how good it is. It's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It exceeds its genre. I mean, there's lines that are quoted from this all the time. You find this man. I mean, right on to a dog house, in house, out house, and everything.
Hey,
I didn't
kill my wife. I don't care.
Yeah.
And of course, that's classic. So this is Tommy Lee Jones' big Oscar win as well. This movie is just a triumph, beginning to end. I can't think of anything wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. The rewatch on this, again, which we did for the Ford Fiesta, available everywhere you can find audio podcasts and also on YouTube and themovieguys.net, was great because, watching Ford outwit the Marshals, and then watching the Marshals outwit Ford, and the back and forth play on that was really fun. I remember enjoying it when I was younger. I watched this movie ad nauseum because I was working in a video store at this point, and because it was PG-13, I could just have it playing in the store, and it would just always be on, and I would never be angry that it was. One of the great Harrison Ford movies. Probably my favorite non-franchise. I know U.S. Marshals was a thing, but outside of the big Star Wars and Indiana Jones movies and Jack Ryan, this was my favorite. So it's an A for me.
Adam.
All right, let me just confirm here. This is how many good Harrison Ford movies there are. This is ending up in B tier of all things. This is when I worked at the movie theater, and Paul shared that story earlier from The Last Crusade. That's exactly the story I had, was clean up the concession stand and head in just in time to see the scene where he says, "I didn't kill my wife. I don't care." That was exactly when I would enter the theater after cleaning up concession stand and everything at the Princess Theaters 4 in Oxford, Ohio. But and we just covered this on the show, and this is an absolute masterpiece. And the thing to watch in this, when you rewatch this, is how little slack they give the hero. I think it's often said, like, when you're writing a screenplay, anything that gets a hero into trouble can be a coincidence, but anything that gets him out of trouble can't be. And they constantly have the Marshals on his ass until the point where the house he's in gets raided, and it's a fake, because it's not the Marshals, it's the police, and the guy that was living upstairs was dealing drugs or whatever. So this movie is just a relentless action movie, but there's so many good Harrison Ford movies. So yeah, that is going on the what did I say? B for me. Can you believe it? That's how good Harrison Ford movies are. This is a B movie in this tier ranking, The Fugitive.
Chris.
Yeah, for me, like rewatching this one for this list as well. Like, I remembered it being good, but it's so much better than I even remembered before when I saw it the first time. It is.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite, if not one of the best cat and mouse movies ever made, basically. And it's easily for me, I know we're talking about Harrison Ford, obviously, but it's easily for me one of my favorite Tommy Lee Jones roles ever as well. I think Sam Gerard is just such a good character for him. And that's saying a lot, too, because Tommy Lee Jones also is someone who's just solid in almost everything he does. But
this is kind of the same place in his career, in his renaissance, as Sean Connery was Last Crusade in his renaissance.
Yeah,
like he had just kind of come back, and then this was just nailing it.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, like this movie's easily. What do I have this? I have this A. This is easily A tier for me as well. It's up there. It's just such a good, like. Man, I don't even know like any more words to describe it. I think this movie is just really, really solid. Honestly.
I'll chime in because this is the first time Chris and I think are agreeing.
So I like the fact that you said.
Let Paul.
What
did you say, Paul?
No, I was saying I think it's the first time Chris and I are agreeing on this show. So allow me to finish your thought. This is. I was going to say this is the first time Chris is right. I mean, Chris and I are agreeing. But no, the deal is, Tommy Lee Jones was great here, and because it was the role was right in his wheelhouse, he knocked it out of the park. But what people don't probably give enough credit to is Ford. What I think would be his second best chance at an Oscar nomination is this movie, underplaying so very efficiently with also not a ton of dialogue. He was doing a lot of figuring and a lot of dodging and bobbing and weaving, and then spoke some iconic lines, but not nearly as much as Tommy Lee Jones, but his was, of course, super showy. I mean, he beat Ralph Fiennes in Schindler's List. He beat John Malkovich in The Line of Fire. He beat DiCaprio and Gilbert Grape. I mean, these are like huge people to go up against in some of their most iconic roles, and he won the Oscar. So anyway, there's a little Oscar talk to further validate this movie if you don't believe Chris and I.
So I like the fact that my brother referred to this as a cat and mouse, because the very first sentence I have on my opinion of this, is one of the most perfect cat and mouse chase movies. Yes, this movie is so good. I watched it again the other day. I didn't need to. I wanted to. I watched this movie probably at least like maybe twice a year or so. I love The Fugitive. Tommy Lee Jones is the standout for this. Yeah, like y'all are talking about like how good Tommy Lee Jones is. Yes, I absolutely love him in this. And I can see why they made a sequel, but they made the sequel focus more on Sam Gerard than, like, say in this case, Richard Kimball, The Fugitive. Because I want more movies. I wanted more movies of Sam Gerard and his team just going after people. That was so much fun. The U.S. Marshals is just about as good for that exact reason. They knew the assignment and they made a movie completely based around the parts of The Fugitive that we absolutely loved. Not to downplay the fact that Harrison Ford is doing a phenomenal performance in this movie as well. The story, acting, dialogue, everything in this movie is easily one of the best that Hollywood has ever produced. I actually have The Fugitive as my third S tier. I love this movie.
Oh, nice.
So that being said, all of our rankings put together would put this in A tier.
Math.
There's already an A tier. So either this could go into A tier and push something down, or if we want, it can go slightly above or slightly below.
Do we figure that out later or no?
I mean, we can put it somewhere now, and then if we choose later on, we can move them around.
I'd put it in A, and then when we vote to move Raiders up to S later, we can keep it there.
I mean, if you want to do that, like, I'm okay with just putting this in A and just go ahead and bump Raiders up.
What? I was just using the Jedi mind trick, trying to get everybody on board with that.
No, yeah, that's how these typically work, is we do it as we go type of thing. So I'm okay with Raiders being bumped up to S. Even though I don't personally find it S tier, I get why it would be S tier.
We're nothing if not fair.
Everyone have an S they haven't mentioned yet?
Yes.
I mean,
I'm not saying a title. Yeah, we'll argue then, I guess.
Yeah, my 3 S's were Empire, Star Wars, and
my
Fugitive.
S's are...
So
I don't think I'm going to get my third S. So it's however this works out.
Yeah.
Is it Cowboys and Aliens?
Hell no.
Is it Extraordinary Measures?
Damn it, he got me.
That's not on this.
It's Hanover Street, isn't it?
Yeah, where's Force 10 from Navarone? That's action.
Yeah. And hey, and Force 10 from Navarone is newly relevant because of the opening of Dial of Destiny, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of Force 10 from Navarone going on there.
So
You're right.
The nice thing about this is because we limit this to a certain amount of movies, it allows us for us to go back and revisit some other Harrison Ford movies in the future. So we will be doing more Harrison Ford.
How can you not?
Next one we're going to go to is, let me see. So
Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah, I think we're going to start with Adam on Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah, so I mean, we just had a revisit of Patriot games recently, and I got a brand new respect for Patriot games because that comes at the end of Harrison Ford sort of going legit, basically, his serious roles. You had Witness, you had Mosquito Coast, you had Working Girl, and then the synthesis of that is when he goes back to action. It's not action because he's playing a much more. He's playing a father. He's playing someone who's not trying to. He's spends the entire movie saying, "Baby," to his wife, "I'm not back. I'm not going into action." And then the bad guys force him into it. He's out of the life until they make him go full Harrison Ford. He's like, "You guys wanted this, and you're going to get the full Ford." But I've always liked Clear and Present Danger a little better than Patriot games. Granted, we haven't rewatched it for the show, but it's a little more of the full Harrison Ford than Patriot games, which is riding the line with the more serious Harrison Ford. So I did put this above, even though, look, I said something has to be F tier, so that I do have a Clear and Present Danger as a D tier movie for me. And again, that's just because everything he does is so good that even something like Clear and Present Danger is going to be a D tier movie. There we go.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah. So like I was saying with Patriot Games, I like this one a little bit more, and I think what really sold it for me is kind of, I would say it's probably the final act of the movie, the third act of the movie. I think is what really got me. There's a lot of back and forth happening. There's a lot of choices being made by characters that you weren't expecting, you did not see coming. With Ford going to the drug dealer, essentially, the drug lord guy,
the kingpin.
And then kind of like trying to work with him a little bit, and then realizing that our main villain here is Joaquin de Almeida before we get him in Fast Five, before like a lot more people really know about him in a lot of regards. I thought it's a lot of fun to just go back and see that actor kind of come back in here again and play such a role. But on top of that, him and Willem Dafoe kind of partnering up at the end we got to go in there and we got to get these guys out. I thought was so much fun. I thought it was an absolute blast to see that. It added a lot of fun to this that I think edges this one easily over Patriot Games for me. This one, I think, so being edged over Patriot Games, I think I had Patriot Games in D. So I think let me look here. S, A, B, C. Hold on. D. Yeah, D. Oh, the C. This is C. Yeah. That's how the alphabet works.
All right. So Clear and Present Danger, I thought it was an okay thriller. I do like Patriot Games more than Clear and Present Danger. If only because I maybe like it because Patriot Games involves Jack Ryan and his family, while Clear and Present Danger doesn't put his family on the line, so you don't have that kind of a connection with the protagonist in this movie. And I think that, like, because it does a lot of like government espionage type of thing, that there's characters in the story just kind of feel a little bit all over the place in this one. So that one kind of made me like kind of step back, having to re-understand who exactly is doing what and where and how to still keep track of the main story. But otherwise, like, it's a decent movie. And I would say this movie actually has the best use of the Alien score since Patriot Games. So I have this as a solid
Rest
D.
in peace, James Horner.
I have this at B next to the both the Indiana Jones sequels. This is a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
And it adultified me as I was sitting there watching him going, this is like some serious adult doings. You know, I appreciate it even more so because essentially Patriot Games is just a revenge story. You killed my brother, I'll kill your family. This is more, okay, now we're into
you killed my brother, you killed my father, perhaps die.
Yeah.
Inigo Montoya.
So this is actually the next one we're going to watch for the Ford Fiesta, so I can't wait for the rewatch on this. I enjoyed Patriot Games so much.
Yeah,
and when I already enjoyed this more than Patriot Games coming out of the screenings of both of them back in the 90s, I can't wait to see the rewatch on this. And Willem Dafoe is a blast, and his character Clark apparently is all over the Clancy books doing all sorts of cool stuff, and it's a shame we never got more Clark movies, but maybe we should go back and Hollywood should do that because his character is pretty cool.
He's in the other ones, like he's in Some of All Fears. And
did he show up in the movie for that? I forget.
He did in Some of All Fears. Yes, I forgot who played him. It's not Willem Dafoe, but yes, he's in Some of All Fears, and I think he's in what's the other one? The other Jack Ryan movie.
Hunt for Red October.
There was Shadow Recruit. There was
not
Without
Hunt for
Warning. No, that wasn't it.
He wasn't in Hunt for Red October.
Hunt for Red October. Yeah.
He's in Some of All Fears. I want to say there was like one other Jack Ryan movie afterwards that he's also in, but I can't remember.
I wonder if he's
curious to know if he was in the TV series. But does that put us at a C for this one?
Yes.
That's
so all that together puts Clear and Present Danger at C. So Moving on. So the next one, and we're gonna start off with. So we start with Adam. So we're starting with Chris on this next one. Next one is going to be our first Harrison Ford movie that is not a part of some kind of franchise. Yes, The Fugitive, because U.S. Marshals came out, makes it a franchise. Jack Ryan's easily a franchise. This is the first standalone movie that has not had a sequel. Air Force One.
And provides us with probably one of the more iconic Harrison Ford lines, because he likes to stop it, don't get ahead of me, what are you doing? Because he likes to fly planes himself. It's get off my plane. Oh my gosh. This is one that took me forever to finally watch. And when I finally got around to it, it's understandable. Like this is easily one of the most 90s movies on this list. And there is charm to a nice little 90s action movie. There's just so much charm to it. And Harrison Ford, Air Force One is the fourth indie movie. I like that. Yeah. First of all, you put let's run down the roster real quick. You put Harrison Ford as the president. You've got Glenn Close as the vice president.
You've got so many people in this movie.
Gary Oldman is the villain. You've got William H. Macy is in there. I mean, we could go like literally all day. This just one of the most solid casts ever.
Yeah,
and
Wendy Crewson, Paul Guilfoyle, Xander Berkeley, Dean Stockwell.
Like
Tom
I said,
Everett.
we could go forever.
Bill Smitrovich.
Yeah, Bill Smitrovich in this. Yeah, from Life Goes On.
5 points.
Yeah.
Bill Smitrovich.
Hey, you're in a house.
We drove, and now I'm in a house.
We made the full journey. We made the full journey here. But yeah, everything you could possibly love about a 90s action film, you pretty much get in this movie. Just big action set pieces, the whole like intense edge of your seat, like with the final act, them trying to get everybody off the plane, and just some powerhouse performances by almost the entire cast here. So this one for me, like, oh man, after all that, I think I actually have this at the bottom of B tier for me. And again, we're talking about like some really iconic films being over it. So I think that's one of the only reasons why it's at the bottom of B tier for me.
Yeah. I have this. This is a solid thriller. And I agree. This is easily another movie that's a product of the 90s. They're silly. They're manufactured. There's no way that a lot of the stuff that takes place in this movie actually would happen in real life. Even if this movie didn't come out and expose any kind of flaws.
Do not hold reality as a standard. Grow up.
Yeah, even though
reality is not a standard for movies. Grow up.
Even though the flaws in the security of getting onto Air Force One, I don't think this actually exposed anything. I absolutely love this movie. It's got great performances. The storyline is good, as flawed as it might be. I do think this is actually one of Gary Oldman's best performances, easily.
You're just saying a lot.
And because of this movie, I feel like Harrison Ford should be the president, like in every movie. Any movie that involves a president, just make Harrison Ford the president of that movie.
Your wish is coming true.
With the exception of Independence Day, I still want Bill Pullman to be delivering that speech in Independence Day. But otherwise, Harrison Ford and everything else. Oh yeah, my wish is coming true.
Oh, you think Harrison Ford would have delivered that better? Do you think Harrison Ford could have delivered that better? I'm pretty sure he could have.
Maybe, but the thing is I don't want to risk it. I love Bill Pullman's delivery of that. July 4th is our Independence Day. Yeah, like
Pullman needs some kind of win, right?
I mean, he's got
he lost all the girls in the movies. He had to be fake Han
2
Solo
Days in the
and
Valley.
Spaceballs. Give him the presidency.
Oh,
Make a
that's right.
secret
He
to
actually
Disney
did
Valley,
play like
2 Days in
Han
the Valley.
Solo. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And so it came full circle. I have Air Force One as a solid A for me.
Oh,
Not a weak A, a solid A.
I'm with you on the manufacturedness of it. It does seem like a big, by the numbers blockbuster summer movie. So it wasn't as appealing to me as something like Clear and Present Danger, which was a bit more complicated. But I got this in another movie vying it out between C and D. So just give me a number between 1 and
Very
10,
cool.
Chris. Chris, give me a number between 1 and 10.
6.
All right, this is D. If you pick the other one, that movie would have been a D. But because they're both teetering in between C and D. And again, just because of the great movies that Harrison Ford's put out. But I'll give one other criticism. It might knock it down for me. I loved everything happening on the plane. I loved Ford, Cruisen, and Xander Berkeley and Macy, and especially Oldman. But on the ground, I didn't care for all that. There was a lot of overacting and some mugging going on with Dean Stockwell and Glenn Close and all the politics going on on the ground. It wasn't as interesting to me or compelling as what happened on the plane. So it's about half a great movie for me in that respect. So, but I put it at D for that.
It definitely felt like with Dean Stockwell's character, it felt like it was basically a lot of dick measuring. Well, the president's in danger, so I'm in charge here, not you.
I'm angry guy that was required to come in for these movies for about 10 years now. I'm Dennis Franz and Die Hard 2. Someone's got to come in and yell and tell you you're doing everything wrong. It's like,
Adam.
There are a few Adams movie rules, and I haven't written them all down. Paul knows a few of them, but one of them is no movie that made in the 90s can avoid being a 90s movie. And I think that's what you're saying, that there is a 90s-ness to this that no movie made in the 90s can avoid, that there's some 90s-ness to it. I believe this is the first Harrison Ford movie that Paul and I saw together, I should say.
That would probably be true, yeah.
I think that's true, yeah. So I remember this day very vividly, waiting in line with Paul and going to the place downtown in Chicago. I can't think of the name of it right now, but
it was like north side a little bit, somewhere around the Water Tower, somewhere down there,
same chain as Water Tower. It's whatever the other one was, but anyway, So Air Force One. This is, as I've said in the Ford Fiesta, there are various phases to Ford's career. The great thing about Harrison Ford Phase 4 is it begins with him being knighted in Patriot Games and ends with him as the President of the United States in Air Force One. That is the Phase 4 is the return to form. And I love Air Force One, but I mean, we are comparing it to some serious masterpieces. So I fully agree with Paul. This is a D tier movie, but only because the rest are masterpieces. But boy, they put him President of the United States and they added a hell of a catchphrase to his retinue of many catchphrases. Get Off My Plane is an absolute classic. And, one criticism I will give of the rest of Harrison Ford's movies is that the rest of them are Jürgen Prochnow-less. This is the one movie that does not lack Jürgen Prochnow, and that's pretty great.
No.
So that's why it's not enough.
General Raddick, The other thing I forgot I was wanting to mention is one thing I like about this movie is a lot of like 90s thriller movies like this. Once the main villain, in this case, Gary Oldman, is killed, destroyed, defeated, whatever, that's the end of the movie. Usually, like, it ends with them being killed and then the hero seeking medical attention. And while the hero's getting that medical attention, the camera zooms out and the credits roll. And you don't get that in Air Force One. As soon as like Gary Oldman is dispatched in this movie, there's like a whole nother like 30 minutes of how the hell do we get off this plane? And it's almost just as interesting as the rest of the movie before it. So yeah, I love that part of this.
Yeah, in wild fashion with him dangling out at the end. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah. So mathematically, this will go in C. All right.
Gosh, what's coming up next?
Yeah, we jumped many years, I believe.
Yeah. Now, so Air Force One was 1997. we're going to jump from 97 all the way to 2008 because Harrison Ford made a lot of dramas and stuff in between there. You had like What Lies Beneath. I think Age of Adeline may have been in there, if not after. I can't remember.
I think that was after. You're looking at Random Hearts.
Random Hearts, 6 Days, 7 Nights. Yeah. So we're going to skip ahead to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. We are back with Indiana Jones. And I think we are starting off
with
me.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, again, keeping in mind, I'm not a big Indiana Jones fan to begin with. So when you do a movie that is typically regarded as like the worst of the Indiana Jones movies, I thought this movie was really silly. Nuking the fridge part is absurd. There's been so many YouTube videos. I just watched another one that Matt Pat did recently, testing how well could that the nuking the fridge scene, could that actually work? And he kind of believes that it could. So it's weird, but
stop bringing reality into movies. Grow up.
Yeah, like
why movies have to be realistic? Where did you get this standard? I don't get this. People are like, "Hey, it's not realistic." Well, huh? No movie you like is realistic. It's grow up.
Yeah, the thing with this movie and why I feel like this is separated so much from the other Indiana Jones movies, all the Indiana Jones movies have had like a certain level of supernatural to it. I mean, you got the Ark of the Covenant, which is from the Bible. There's a spiritual force surrounding it, so that would make sense. Temple of Doom, you had this weird like cult thing that did weird like voodoo practices, so that makes sense. Last Crusade, we're talking about the Holy Grail, again, biblical. And then this movie just jumps into aliens. We've gone from stuff, aliens,
interdimensional beings.
Sure.
We've gone from things that are of this earth that just have like a slight supernatural to them to just something completely not of this earth at all. And I think that is where it pushes it too much. At least everything else still felt kind of grounded and realistic. This one it went too absurd in what it was trying to do. And I think that's what really hurts this movie with most people. That, and there's individual parts I'm not going to dive into that feel very weird and disjointed. And then my other major solid complaint about this movie is this movie feels like it was shot on a soundstage. Every single piece of this movie looked like it's a soundstage, or at most a backlot. Indiana Jones is known for globetrotting, for going from place to place, and I want to see this cinematography. I want to see, even though it's a desert, it's plain, it's boring, it's sand, it's coarse, it's rough, it gets everywhere. I want to see like that sand. I want to see the cinematography of walking across those dunes. While here we are stuck with very small, like within a confines of a box or a stage. And it doesn't feel realistic to me. So a lot of that is just very disjointed and out of place. This is my first F. So, Paul.
I once was I used to lament that the best and worst movies I've ever seen were in the same franchise, because Raiders is my favorite. I thought Crystal Skull was the laziest movie I ever saw. But in previous rewatches, it took me 15 years, but in February, I went to the New Beverly Cinema and watched it again on the big screen. And it is not a lazy movie. It is lazy in terms of like, I wish they went to Tunisia. I always say, look, go to Tunisia, get dysentery. Your movie will be better for it. And also all the sound stages in Crystal Skull kind of do drive me nuts. It has some of the worst ideas of the franchise, from communist fighting monkeys to quicksand, which is the hackiest. Or what, it's not quicksand, whatever he says it is, dry sand pit. Those are just a hacky idea. John Hurt's character is weird, too weird for me to enjoy. I get that he's sort of, taken over by the skull, but it's very bizarre. Anyway, I gotta start keeping these quicker. So I will just say it's F because of that, because it's still the worst of the franchise. But I've started to appreciate things like, if it takes a weird little nuke the fridge scene to get to Indiana Jones standing in the shadow of a mushroom cloud, that shot is fantastic.
It is.
He's like,
legendary.
I've fought Nazis before, but this this is a whole nother level. And he has to sit there and look at it with a whip in his hand. What's he going to do with a whip? You know, it's just sort of sets Indy in a new place, just like the new movie sets Indy in. He's slowly getting out of time, and this is his first step of being out of time. And he'll do even more so in the new film. But so that being said, there's some great stunts in this movie. Much of the great parts of the film, him and Jim Broadbent having a great talk about how they've reached the part of their lives where things are being taken away from them more than discoveries. You know, all that stuff is great. They get to the jungle and it starts to get weird. And I don't care for it as much. I don't mind aliens. They clearly were going for the 50s. That was the thing. People feared commies and aliens. And so so they just brought them both to this movie. And I thought they did that well. And I didn't mind a spaceship at the end. I thought that there were bigger problems with that movie than that. But overall, as much as I've softened on this movie over the years, it's still just being the worst of the franchise gets an F.
Adam.
Yeah, I mean, this movie was a tough sell initially. Obviously, I'm in the bag for Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones, so I'm going to watch this movie over and over. There are a lot of great parts of this movie. I do have to ask of Robert, when's the last time you saw this movie?
I just watched it for the first time less than a week ago.
Really?
I will.
Okay.
So I will preface this. I was still entertained.
You are so full of internet talk about this, by the way. And I do, this absolutely no disrespect, but I can absolutely smell when people are saying internet things as opposed to their own opinions. And I'm not saying that's 100% true. I'm just saying the opinion that this thing looks like it's shot on a soundstage is internet speak. And when you watch it, you mean one scene is clearly on a soundstage in green screen. The rest of it, there's a lot that is not and is clearly on location. And that's one of those things that's just taken on a life of its own. But anyway, not that this movie's a masterpiece. So obviously it can take any ribbing you give. It has earned in some ways. It's a weird movie. It's odd. It's definitely not one of my favorite movies. And I'm not even putting it on a high tier here. In fact, I think I have it on... I put it on C tier, but that's me being a jerk. It probably deserves D tier, but I put it on C tier because I've tried to make extra peace with this movie, probably more than it deserves. But I think a lot of the criticism is undue. I mean, the stuff it does, it's great, and certainly Harrison Ford's performance actually is quite good in this movie. And I'm just happy there's a fourth Indiana Jones movie. And now that we've seen 5 Indiana Jones movies, is it just me, or have they made 5 completely different movies that all have enough connectivity as to be a 5-movie series? But yeah, this is going to get C tier for me.
Yeah. So for me, this is one of those where I think I was on the train of the internet speak for this movie for a very long time after only having seen it once.
Yeah, let me guess. Jar Jar sucks. You know, it's like, come on, guys, watch the movie and tell me what you really think. You know.
Side note: I actually don't mind Jar Jar. I don't really.
The effects are amazing, but anyway, of Jar Jar. But anyway.
As far as this movie goes, though, I've only seen it twice now. Rewatched it for this tier list, and I very much enjoyed it a lot more on the rewatch. Honestly, the things that I did not like about it before is the same thing. Like I felt like the aliens, saying aliens before, it just felt out of place to me with regard to like archaeology type stuff. It didn't gel with me before, but this time I was clued into listening. They never once actually referred to them as aliens really in the movie. They were interdimensional beings.
That's true.
I think if you go from that route and you really like lean into that does feel like it fits more in line with anything else that we've seen in an Indiana Jones franchise. You know, all supernatural stuff floats in the interdimensional kind of processing. The things that my brother complains about for this movie, I actually find charming. The aspects of it that definitely feel like are on a soundstage, I thought brought me back to like the finale of Raiders of the Lost Ark, wherein that definitely didn't feel like it was shot on a location somewhere. That definitely did feel like it was shot with set design and everything.
That was shot on a matte painting.
It was shot with a matte painting, yeah. And here's the thing about that. We don't get that in movies anymore, really.
No.
You really don't see that kind of artistry in movies anymore with the matte painting background.
Yeah, they've moved on to the Mandalorian back wall, the projection back
yeah,
wall.
right?
Yeah, it's all the volume now. It's all that the wraparound 360 green screen essentially.
In-game used some matte paintings, but not very many.
Not very many. And I think that there's a lot of charm to that. And I think that actually, while some may consider it a flaw, I actually think it's a highlight for this movie for me. A little odd as opposed to what a lot of people will complain about for this film. There are definitely moments in this movie that, I was like, this movie is definitely a cartoon. There's moments where there's definitely like cartoon-like feeling in this movie. But then after having gone back and rewatched all of the Indiana Jones movies and lead up to both this list as well as seeing Dial of Destiny, I've come to the conclusion that all of the Indiana Jones movies actually are a little cartoony in places at times. And that's not a bad thing. Again, I think that is something that leads into the charm of what we get in the Indiana Jones movies. I think you guys put it the way y'all put it earlier. There's some goofy shit. There's definitely some goofy shit in these movies. And honestly, I appreciate them for that. And so because of that, this movie isn't actually at the very bottom for me. It's definitely not the best of the franchise. I say that, knowing full well we have to get into Dial of Destiny at the end of this list, but I still appreciate it for its charm and what it does bring to the table. So I have it in the D tier.
Yeah. Again, I will preface this. I still think it's an entertaining movie. It was still fun watching it.
Defend yourself.
Well, I mean, I'm going to defend myself in regards to this movie as much as I would defend. I feel like I'm going to defend any movie that we put in the F tier, especially the next movie we're about to talk about, which is very likely also leaning towards the F tier.
He's predicting it.
But yeah, it's a fun movie. It's enjoyable. Even like a badly ranked Harrison Ford movie in this list in particular is still entertaining and enjoyable to watch. So I would still highly recommend any of them. Let me see.
So we got
math.
2 Ds. I think you said F.
Yeah, this is actually if I'm rounding up, it's gonna go D. But I have
the bottom of D, probably.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to still probably make its way a little further down.
Yeah, because something's got to fit in the F tier, considering I put the first Blade Runner all the way down there, and the first Blade Runner is not going to end up there. So, according to my list, I think the other two movies I have there will probably end up there along with Crystal Skull.
I'm almost certain that this next movie we're going to talk about is going to end up there, because we are talking about Cowboys and Aliens. Woo!
Yeehaw!
Yeah.
How can Han Solo in 007 fighting aliens in the Old West not work?
With Olivia Wilde. Don't know, but they managed to do it.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work. As much as I enjoyed parts of it, it just kind of is sluggish and doesn't get to what it's going towards. And that being said, I still give a D because there's some better Harrison Ford. I think maybe just Harrison Ford back in cowboy mode. It had been a long time. Since Frisco Kid, I think, right? So, it was fun to see that. But, yeah,
it's true. It's Bruce Weston from Frisco Kid.
Yeah, we're going to get into the movies where I don't have much to say because I honestly don't remember a lot of them. There's not enough about this movie to remember to argue for or against. But so I'll give it a D.
Adam.
Yeah, this is perfect timing to reach the some of the lower tier stuff because I'm visiting a relative here and he has to get up early for a flight. So F tier, go. I don't know why I haven't seen it. It just looks like shit. Go.
Chris.
Yeah, I mean, Paul said it best. There's not a whole lot to say about this movie. It's there. It exists.
I think Adam said it best, bro.
There you go. It exists. F tier.
Yeah.
Everything else is like, it's a glorious examination of this and that, and Harrison Ford knew it. In this one, you're like, it exists. F.
Well, like I said, there might be a movie of Harrison Ford's that you don't like, but Harrison Ford's not the reason why you don't like it, and I think that rings true for this movie.
Yeah.
It could have been so much more exciting. It's in the F tier for me.
Was Harrison Ford even in this? This was a fun idea. Like, I like the idea of the old-timey West and meets like something futuristic like aliens.
Great concept.
But yet didn't do anything with it. This movie is very long and drawn out, and I will preface that with saying I did watch the extended cut, which going back and looking at it, I believe the extended cut's like another 10 or 15 minutes, which doesn't seem like very much, but in movie time, that's a whole lot of added something. So that might be a part of it, but I think like the effects look good. The acting was really good. This movie had a stacked cast. This is another one of those, like, it was not a fault of the cast at all. Just the story is just, It just really didn't do much with this idea. I also have this as an F. Still entertaining. I just don't know how easily I'm going to come back to rewatch this, especially with anything else I have to do for this channel.
So I think we all agreed that it's in the F tier.
Yeah.
I said D, but there's enough F.
D,
Oh yeah,
F,
Paul said D. Yeah.
You said
Sorry,
F. You said F.
But
I
I
said
won't
F.
argue.
I'm curious for Paul what knocked this up to D from the F. What got the F?
Yeah. What's the
Crystal
other three?
Skull, and then there's a third one.
Ah. There you go. There's our first F.
All right. Next one, we're moving on to, I guess we're starting with Adam on this. Ender's Game. And I will be
I
right
haven't
back.
seen it. Looks like shit. I agree that it exists. F.
Well, I was going to be right back here in a little bit, but I'll hold off a bit.
So yeah, as far as
I'm totally mentally wrapped up. I'm like, great, we're at Ender's Game. I don't know.
as far as this movie goes for me, I read the book in school. I read the first book in the Ender's series in school. And as far as an adaptation goes, I thought they did a pretty decent job adapting it from that book. But all that being said, this feels like it should have started a franchise. They didn't go anywhere with it. It's kind of floating out there in space on its own, basically. And it's again, it exists. It exists. They did I think a decent enough job with it, with what they needed to do, but it exists as well. So because of literally every other movie on this list, it gets the F tier.
Robert has stepped away, so I'll say the same thing I said about Cowboys and Aliens with this. I saw this movie. I don't remember it. What I remember most about Ender's Game is that it came to Comic-Con, and I got the chance to see Harrison Ford and Hall H, and I thought that was really cool. And then I saw the movie, and I went, boy, this is not sticking with me. I wouldn't even know if it's really much of an action movie. So it's
so much as sci-fi.
If there was a ton of action in it, I forgot that too, and I would be shocked to know that because you'd think action would have stuck in my head a little bit. So yeah, there's not much going on here that is anything I can hang on to. So
yeah, I think
so
I'll have a
F-tier
more
for me.
interesting take on this when we reach Harrison Ford phase 5, or maybe this is 6. I don't know, but I'm very curious in terms of how his career evolves to encompass Cowboys and Aliens and Ender's Game, the way we've been able to re-examine certain movies in the phase chronology of Harrison Ford. But I don't have enough of an opinion on these right now. I'm sure I'll give these great in-depth and be able to create a universal theory of 6 days, 7 nights to Ender's Game. But right now I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like that. By the time we get to this in the Ford Fiesta, we might love it. A revisit could be worth it for this
I
film.
guarantee I will.
a first trip down the aisle with this movie did not stick in my memory very much.
Yeah.
So
that's because you hadn't seen Heroes prior to it, or
All right.
All right,
What was
F.
everyone's ranking?
I think we're all F.
Yeah.
Everyone's F so far.
You haven't gone, but
All right. So
this
Ender's
movie.
Game. I think Ender's Game. This is one of those movies I feel like that it necessitated its actual placement and how good it is if they made a sequel. This movie, again, this is based off a book, and there's an entire series about everything that this
was the first one.
This story sets up.
Yeah.
And I think that this story or this movie would have been fleshed out a bit better had we continued with the idea that this movie ends on. As far as just a standalone movie, if you were looking at this movie just in a bubble, it's like, well, we did all that for no fucking reason. So,
yeah, I agree with that. It kind of ends, and you're like, I kind of saw that ending coming. Oh, it's over? All right, there's the credits. I guess I'll leave.
This movie ends with an idea. Ender, the position that Ender is in at the ender of this movie is I know everyone can shake their heads. It was terrible. That terrible joke. I'm sorry. The position that he's in leads to something that would be a great idea, that would be amazing in the next movie, but they didn't do that. So therefore, we're only judging this movie within the bubble of this movie. It's fun, it's entertaining. I like the ideas that they have for it, but yeah, this movie's a D for me. I think Harrison Ford and Viola Davis are severely underused. I don't know the books.
Viola Davis is in this movie?
Exactly.
All right. Put it at
I don't know if their characters are any more meaningful in the later books, but they don't do anything in the story in this movie.
And Ford could do the sequel. He had to go off and shoot what no doubt is the next movie we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
It required more of his time.
So, I mean, I have this as a D, which means we're looking at 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, we're still looking at this being an F. So,
yeah.
Which, again, I will say it's still an entertaining movie. In fact, I'm going to, me personally, I'm going to put this above Cowboys and Aliens. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and stick Cowboys and Aliens down here. We can change it up. I'm open to being changed up, but this is my personal idea. Let's go with, I guess we're going to start with Adam on this next one. Force Awakens. We are back to Star Wars. Adam, if you would like to start us off.
Oh, is it me? Okay, hold on. Let's see here. Where do I have The Force Awakens here? Much respect for The Force Awakens. Let's see. Where did I put it, though?
We got 4 left, including Force Awakens. So the end of this is in sight.
All right, the end is in sight. Oh, there it is. Okay, well, geez. Again, Harrison Ford has so many movies. This ended up down in D tier of all places. That is because I did make a rad choice and put one of the I put the other movie that he's in a little higher than this because I have a lot of love for Rise of Skywalker. This ended up down in D tier. I mean, it's great. I love The Force Awakens, but it's no Blade Runner. It's no Air Force One. It's no Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, what can I say? The guy hits mostly triples. This one, and a lot of home runs, and this one is more of a ground rule double, I guess.
Chris,
Force Awakens. So my issue with the sequels, I do like the sequels, just not as much as the other 6 movies in the main part of the franchise. And so going into this one, I was excited to see a Star Wars movie in the theater again. Everyone's excited about that. And it's good. It's a good movie, but I think at the end of the day, I walked out of it back when I first saw it in 2015. I walked out of it going, let me see the next 2. Let me see the next 2 in this trilogy, and then I'll form an opinion about the trilogy as a whole. And then, of course, Last Jedi happened, and I was like, let me see the 3rd one in this trilogy, and then I'll form an opinion about this trilogy as a whole. And so that kind of leads where I think about the Star Wars movies. I have a lot of love for the original trilogy. Obviously, it's the first Star Wars movies I've ever seen. Prequel trilogy, I grew up with the prequel trilogy, so I have a lot of love for the prequel trilogy. And the sequel trilogy is the first time, including Force Awakens here, is the first time I ever got the feeling of a lot of people out there who gave their opinion about the prequel trilogy when they first saw the prequel trilogy after having grown up with the originals was it doesn't connect with me as much as the other 6 do. And this one, a lot of people say there's a lot of like moments that feel kind of rehashed from A New Hope. It's there are some of those beats. Some of those beats do feel very similar, but for the most part, it is interesting to see the direction they took. I think again, we're gonna see a lot of like stuff kind of filled in if they do more stuff, maybe TV show wise or what have you between Return of the Jedi and this movie, and then obviously with the Rey movie coming down the line here that they've announced. Overall, I like Force Awakens. It's the lowest Star Wars movie I have on this list. I as well say it's in the D tier for me because like Adam, I have a lot more love for Rise of Skywalker than I do for this one in particular.
Yeah. So for me, I think this is I feel like it's a fun return to Star Wars. I do like seeing like Han and Chewie back together. That was a fun bit there.
Good moment in the trailer, sitting in the theater. We're home.
Yeah.
Woo! Good moment.
Chewie.
Incredible, because that was just never going to happen. Harrison Ford was never, ever going to be in a Star Wars movie ever again. That is,
yeah.
Despite my ranking of it amongst these Harrison Ford movies, that was incredible. Like that was literally never going to happen again.
I'm one of the people that I like how much this movie like pays homage or like clearly nods to A New Hope. Like the internet is full of like all the comparisons. I actually kind of like that, while I also enjoy the few things that this movie does that diverges from that idea, that pushes it into a new direction. I actually have The Force Awakens as a B.
Ooh.
Wow. It's a D for me. These new characters don't do anything for me. It gets worse when Han Solo leaves this trilogy. I think the idea of a stormtrooper who's rebellious and, sheds his uniform to go fight with the resistance is interesting, but Finn wasn't as interesting as the idea of Finn was. Mm-hmm. He constantly is running from a fight. I don't care for Rey didn't do anything for me. I didn't care who her parents were. That seemed to be like the big talk, but the movie never brings up what her parents are about. And so take that out of it, and there wasn't much going on with her. The whole thing just didn't jive. I enjoyed watching Han Solo again.
But you didn't watch the episode 4 and go, "Who are Luke's parents?" This is something that's been ingrained in us from the other movies.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, they at least talked about him. They said that, didn't they say his father fought in the Clone Wars, right? And didn't Ben tell him that?
Well, that's true.
So, but So what?
Anyway,
I didn't care about her. I didn't care about
argument.
the internet manufacturer that I should talk about with her.
We're talking Harrison Ford movies.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching him, but that's not enough to get it past a D. So.
Harrison Ford is in the 2 least interesting movies of the sequel trilogies. The best one he's not in.
Wow, there's a take.
Well,
it's fine. Chris, what was your ranking?
I said D.
D. Okay. So that puts us let's see. At a 2.5, so that would kick this up. I mean, technically if we're rounding up, this should be a C, but it also kind of leans back down into a D. I'm kind of the idea in that case then. Let's move. Yeah, let's move Patriot Games. Let me see and we'll put Force Awakens.
Ooh, this next one's gonna be interesting. Looking at the list.
Yeah, we got some. I know there's at least one really interesting one that I still have yet to talk about.
With 3 movies left, I haven't said what my other S tier is.
Oh, yeah, I know what that is. I don't know why the sizes of these are so weird, but whatever. All right. Well, speaking of the next one that's going to be interesting, Blade Runner 2049. I guess we're starting. Are we starting with Chris?
Yes, I believe so, because I think Adam started Force Awakens. So, Blade Runner 2049. We all know where I put the first Blade Runner on this list. I dropped it all the way to the bottom. I was expecting going into this one, obviously, knowing what I heard about it beforehand, that it kind of plays off some of the same pacing, some of the same everything like the first one had. That I was going to probably not like this one as much. Like I said, though, when we were talking about Blade Runner, this list is kind of bookended a little bit with Blade Runner for me. It's not at the top of S tier for me, but it is in S tier. I thought this was an absolutely amazing film by the time I was done watching it.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, right? I'm a weirdo. But there's... I did have to process kind of what the story was doing there for a little bit, but I overall liked the direction they went with it, what they were doing with Ryan Gosling's character, what he represented, and what he was facing. And then when you get to like the last hour of the movie, when they finally bring in Decker again, and then the connection they bring him full circle in this movie. And I think there's a lot of themes that I just really, really enjoyed about this. Ryan Gosling trying to figure out where he fits with, what his job was, what his role was, and knowing that the replicants out there are trying to fight for their own freedom still. And then, of course, thinking that he's the one that is, the child, essentially. But then you have Decker on the other hand, who, is having a moment where he gets to meet this member of his family, his child at some point, and just what they did with that by the end of the film. I'm trying not to I feel like everyone else has seen this movie before me, because I did watch it for the first time for this list. So I feel like everyone else got to see it before me, but I don't know. I still am playing this like I really don't want to give away anything or any aspect of the movie, but I don't know. I'm guessing probably everyone has seen this already, so maybe isn't that big of a deal. But I really enjoyed it. There were moments that were a little slower. Jared Leto did next to nothing for me in this movie. If his character wasn't in it, I probably would have felt the same about the movie. He didn't add anything to me. In fact, most of his talking kind of just went over my head a little bit until he got right to the point at times. But other than that, he's really kind of like my only big flaw with this movie. I otherwise just really enjoyed what they did with the story, and Denis Villeneuve having his touch on this, I thought was great, because it turns out I think I really like Denis Villeneuve. Arrival is one of my favorite movies of all time, so throw that in the mix. Let that mean whatever you want. So,
what was your ranking?
This is my third S tier.
Oof. Okay. Well, if anyone else would like to go before me, I believe this movie is even more high-minded than the first one. While I still understood what this movie was talking about, it just... I don't know what's up with movies. Why can't you just say that? Why can't you talk like the way normal people talk?
It's called art.
Sure, I guess, but I thought this one was hard to sit through as far as the story goes.
Then you should rewatch the first one if you're saying this one's art. It's the first one's art too.
So I mean,
that's why I want to rewatch the first one actually.
Yeah. That I'm going to take into account, and also preface this with, again, like I said, for the first one, it took me about 5 times to try to get into it and watch it to completion. This movie, I also had to watch for the Marquee. I just watched this like 2 or 3 nights ago. So this would have been, if I wasn't like running a YouTube movie channel, this probably also would have been a movie I started and turned off, come back to later, turn it off, come back to it again. Like try to watch it a couple of times to fully understand and grasp it. I didn't have that kind of time. I had to put this movie on and just sit through it for the first time and make my way through it. Visually, it's stunning. I think Denis Villeneuve nails the aesthetic that Ridley Scott was trying for in the original. And even though it's made decades later, and there's obviously some visual improvements in camera quality and technology and stuff, I still feel like visually this movie takes place in the same world as the original. So kudos there. This movie works very well storyline wise, but I think it kind of slogs through it. Again, it's slow paced and I feel like it's very high minded, even though it's I feel like it's a very easy concept to grasp.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's just, yeah, I will never put down the cinematography of a movie, especially if Roger Deakins is doing it. I'm a big Roger Deakins fan as far as cinematography goes. You can't see it right now, but I mean, I've got the Shawshank Redemption poster behind me, which is easily one of Deakins' best. He even has a character in that movie named after him. So, I mean, I love his cinematography, and I believe, if I remember correctly, this is the one that he won the Oscar finally for. So, yeah visually outstanding looking movie. Just the story is it's a little too much for me and my ADHD brain. I do have this as an F. I know. I am prepared for all of the hate, but
I put this in a C on the coin flip that Chris gave me earlier. It was either going to be this or Air Force One.
Oh, if I knew.
But it went up to C and put Air Force down to D according to my votes. But it's a very, very sad movie. It's certainly the adult father of the first movie, which is certainly a super adult movie. But this one is can we even top the emotions and platitudes of that movie? Yeah, and it is one of the most beautiful looking movies of all time. But that being said, it's not as captivating to me as the original or some of the other things I put above it, obviously. So a D, or I'm sorry, so a C. That's a C.
And Adam.
Yeah, this is the Mad Max Fury Road of Blade Runner movies. There are so many sequels that seem to have not even seen the first movie. And the longer they get away from their original movie, you just go, how are they going to capture the energy of it? And then along comes a movie like this that just seems to know even more than Blade Runner what Blade Runner was about. And so it is amazing in that it somehow captures all the Blade Runner-ness of the original movie. However, we're dealing with a lot of Harrison Ford masterpieces here. This is going to go in C tier for me. I think along with Blade Runner, maybe for my choice. But it's just amazing that, the big thing you're going up against is the cinematography, is the visual storytelling, is the boring movie aspects of the first Blade Runner. And it just kills it with those. I love that it begins in the country. Because you're like, is there country in Blade Runner? And then the first scenes of this are in the country, and I'm like, oh, we're in very good hands because it's taking an alt version of Blade Runner, but it keeps all the heart, all the feel of it. And I have to say, I'm very good at missing trailers and spoilers and all this sort of stuff. And I didn't know Harrison Ford was in this movie until he showed up, which is the best spoiler-free movie I've ever seen.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like the last hour of the movie.
Yeah.
I thought he was a major part of this.
God.
When he showed up, I was like, oh yeah, he's in this movie too. I completely forgot about that.
It's so triumphant after he returns as Han Solo and returns as Indiana Jones, and you're like, well, the one thing he's never going to return as is Deckard. And you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. All right, so mathematically wise, it technically would end up in C, but I mean, I'm bumping it up to the end of B for right now.
Top of C, bottom of B is basically the same positioning almost.
Yeah. Next one we're going to go to is Rise of Skywalker. So yes, Harrison Ford's Han Solo was not in The Last Jedi. He pops up real briefly as a Force ghost in, Force
Not
Ghost.
a Force ghost.
Not really a Force ghost. Just a memory ghost, I guess, in Rise of Skywalker. Yeah.
Maybe a Force vision.
Yeah. So this one, we're going to start with what, Paul?
Yeah. These movies, I don't care. F. And I have taken Han Solo out of it. I mean, forget about it. I don't care. I don't. Palpatine didn't need to come back. I mean, it didn't do anything for me. I can't remember half of it.
Yeah, Adam. Adam's currently in an earthquake.
Yeah, sorry, I keep hitting unmute, and my finger is too big for it. Apparently. Anyway,
earthquakes are plentiful in Ohio. There's that big fault line.
Rise of Skywalker, I am in love with. I think this movie is awesome. If you just watched this movie as its own thing, it would feel like Star Wars did, coming out of nowhere. Of like, oh my God, this movie is doing so much stuff. Every shot in this, I gotta say, if you like Roger Deakins, you'll love Rise of Skywalker. Every shot in this movie is an absolute masterpiece, an absolute Yes album cover, a heavy metal magazine cover. This movie is pure metal in its cinematography, and I love so much stuff that's going on here. However, we are talking about Harrison Ford, but I think I did, as a bit of a movie brat, I did put this up higher than I should have, just to be a little brat. So yeah, this is C tier for me, because I dig it more every time I watch it. There's just something really cool about this movie, and of course, Kylo Ren is one of the great cinema characters, I think, certainly one of the great Star Wars characters. And this is not Han Solo's movie, but it is Kylo Ren's movie to a great degree, and great Kylo Ren stuff, great Yes album cover stuff going on in this movie. Yeah, C tier, Rise of Skywalker. Better than you remember, folks. Better than you remember, Paul.
So, Adam, I have to ask real quick, what is your relationship with the band Yes?
Oh, we lost him.
Oh, I can tell you, I went to see Yes with Adam's mom and stepdad, and so I think it probably filtered down from them as like the prog rock band to be dealt with. And, this
I was raised on prog
Asia
rock
and Yes covers.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm a big
this
Pink
is a
Floyd
total
fan,
prog
so.
rock movie, man.
Yeah, I'm a Pink Floyd fan, so yeah, prog rock as far as that goes, I get it. Weird album covers, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, the shot of the Emperor on that chair that gets lowered with all the wires and everything. You know, like when they released the concept art of the Matrix, and you're like, and all the Jeff Darrow stuff and all the sort of stuff, you're like, man, why didn't half of this make it to the screen? And you watch this and you're like, I think all of the concept art made it to the screen in this movie. It's like, they got it all in. I mean, the fact that there's like horses riding on the surface of a Star Destroyer. They have like a cowboy battle on the surface of a Star Destroyer. It's just, I mean, there's so much insane stuff in this movie. I don't think it gets enough credit, but
yeah. I agree with that. There's a lot of like fun Star Wars stuff happening in this movie, and I think at the end of the day, when you go to a Star Wars movie, that's what you want. Is you want some fun Star Wars stuff happening in a movie. For me, like this is probably my favorite of the trilogy. There's just a lot of like great stuff happening left and right. I mean, I understand why some people aren't on board with it. I understand the idea of how the narrative of Palpatine coming back, and I do think that there's some flaws with that, but at the same time, Star Wars right now is still a universe that could be ever growing, and at any point they can write another animated series or another show or something that kind of fills in some gaps that I think qualify the flaws in this movie or what have you. And so I think you could easily at some point fill in what you would consider a flaw. For me, it being my favorite of the trilogy, I do have it a little bit higher. If Adam is a brat, then I am a full-on hooligan, and I'm putting it in the B tier.
What tier did you put it in?
B.
B. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think it's a weird ending to the sequel trilogy. Some of the parts I feel like just don't fit together for me. I have watched this movie multiple times, and I feel it is fine. It does feel like a Star Wars movie. I do feel it suffers from what seems like what I would call like a lack of direction for the entire sequel trilogy as a whole. The reason why The Last Jedi seems to divert so much from what The Force Awakens was trying to do, I feel like Rise of Skywalker is more in line with what Force Awakens was trying to set up to begin with, and like that makes sense because of the change in directors and whatnot, but like it just feels so weird and disjointed, and I'm not certain if I can give 100% of the fault to Rise of Skywalker over The Last Jedi. I think that a part of it may just have to do with the diverting from the story that Last Jedi was trying to do. And I know it's easy to shit all over Last Jedi on the internet, but for me,
I'm hearing some internet talk. But yeah,
I
I
know.
It's very internet talk.
I get it. Like, Last Jedi is a good movie. It deals with
JJ made his movie because he hated Rian Johnson. Did he, or did he have some of these ideas and tried to execute?
It had a lot of good.
I don't know if it's a revenge thing, like the internet wants to turn into a soap opera.
I think Last Jedi had a lot of good themes to it, and I would have loved to have seen like maybe an expanded view of what Rian Johnson was wanting to do with that particular movie. I think it actually would have worked very well had that been the idea for the entire sequel trilogy. Mm-hmm. But because we start off with like JJ and then Ryan and then back to JJ, and it just seems like the way it was made, JJ was just so concerned about continuing his idea without actually like nailing or making really any mention to what Ryan did in the meantime.
That's right. Ryan's got 3 movies where he can do everything he wanted to do. Coming up, right? Do I have that right?
At some point, maybe.
If they're going to continue, yeah. So I think that's what hurts. That's what hurts Rise of Skywalker. Trying to look at Rise of Skywalker as its own movie within the bubble, I think it's an okay movie, but yeah.
But I mean, if there were an internet when they released Return of the Jedi, wouldn't you have said, "I can't believe they unfroze Han Solo"? It's like Richard Marquand hates, what's his favorite director of Empire Strikes Back? I mean,
Irvin Kershner. Yeah.
But I mean, that's not the case. But we're now on the internet, so we're making up all these battles. You know, did Rian Johnson not say anything he meant to say? He left nothing loose. He told his story. I feel,
I think
it's so weird. People are making up like, and Kylo Ren put his mask back on. You're like, yeah, and it's full of cracks. That's symbolic, douchebags. Mm-hmm. Like it's not because it's like, oh man, I can't believe he took his mask off in The Last Jedi. I'm putting the mask back on. It's like they've invented that whole animosity. I think
what will happen is ultimately over time the sequel trilogy will end up aging better. Just like for a lot of people, I think for the Star Wars community, the prequel trilogy
because on a long enough timeline, everything becomes nostalgia. That's why everybody's like, I hate the Flash. I'm like, just hold on. Jeez.
So what yeah.
It'll be nostalgia in 5 years. Give me a break.
What I'm wondering though is like with the original trilogy, of course, George Lucas directed the original. You got Irvin Kershner and Marquand doing the third one. I wonder like how much of that.
And Marquand shitting all over Irvin Kershner's.
What I'm wondering though was the positioning of everyone. Like George Lucas still very much feels like it was still his vision of that original trilogy the entire time, even though it's different directors. While the sequel trilogy, it feels more like it was in the director's hands as far as creativity goes. Not so much like, say, George Lucas having an overall idea of how it should go, but JJ had an idea with Force Awakens, and he just completes that idea with Rise of Skywalker and barely acknowledges anything that happened in Last Jedi. And I feel that's what's causing this disjointed. That's what causes like the internet to complain about Last Jedi.
Yeah, but you know what the truth is? We don't know. Move
Yeah,
on.
absolutely, 100%. We're all just having
We
to
don't know.
assume. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, next movie. I got to get going here.
Yeah, Last Jedi I have as
The
a
point
C,
is Harrison
C.
Ford's awesome. What's the next movie you got?
I have Rise of Skywalker as a C.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, last movie, right?
Chris.
Two C's, a B, and an F.
So that is 3,
2 C's, a B, and an F. Is that what that came out to?
Yeah.
10, so we're at 11. That puts it also like at, say, like a B.
Slide it in there. You got an open spot.
Yeah, I'm gonna move.
You can shift some stuff around. We got a Dial of Destiny to talk about next.
Yeah, so the next one is going
Here we
to
go.
be...
Dial of Destiny, S tier, everyone, right? Boom.
I don't know about that. Let's go. Wait, who are we starting with on this one?
Adam, I think.
Adam?
All right, let me confirm where I put Dial of Destiny. I'm being a little bit of a prat. I'm probably putting it higher than it should, but I have tremendous recency bias, and I own that and love that. And I love my recency bias. So
I just watched
when
it
I
last
watched
night.
this movie, I said, that's the greatest movie I've ever seen, favorite movie of all time. And then I took a day, I took 2 days, I took a week, and then I went to go see it again. And so I have now put Dial of Destiny down at, let's see here, let me confirm. Dial of Destiny I have at a B tier because this is a hell of an Indiana Jones movie. There is just some amazing Harrison Ford stuff going on in this movie. This movie almost feels like it knows how to be an Indiana Jones movie more than several of the other Indiana Jones movie. I'm going with the B tier, and that might be recency bias, but I fully embrace that, and I love my recency bias. This is the greatest movie of all time. Well, okay, B tier. But how great is it that he's back as Indiana Jones? Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll let everybody else go. I got to go.
Real quick before Chris, the math doesn't work. Yes, I know. I rounded up. It should have been C, but because C was already filled and we're in a hurry, I rounded up.
It's also going to take some time to shift some things on the bars here. So
yeah. Chris, go ahead.
Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny, better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I don't think that it's better than the original trilogy.
Hot take.
I know, right? I don't think it passed the original trilogy. There's a lot of love and nostalgia and iconicism in the original trilogy, but I think this movie did about as good as you could do for a finale to the franchise, and so therefore it's over Crystal Skull for me, but under the other three. I'm putting this one in the C tier. Top of C tier. It's around C tier.
Yeah. So I say for Dial of Destiny, I think it's fine. It's an Indiana Jones movie completely. It's an entertaining Indiana Jones movie. Great send off for the character. I like what the character was trying to do at the end, as far as if you're looking at within the scope of this is the final Indiana Jones movie, what that character is wanting to do at the very end of that movie, I think makes sense and works for that character. But I also understand why story-wise they didn't do that. I think it's a great send-off for the character as long as the studios leave the Indiana Jones franchise the hell alone after this. We don't need another one. Don't make another Indiana Jones. I don't need a Disney Plus show. I don't need prequels or anything. Just leave it alone and leave it as it is, and it's fine as it is here. I do like the fact this movie came back to being a supernatural based rather than going full on aliens like the Crystal Skull aliens.
Interdimensional beings.
Yeah. Like I feel like this movie's back more in the realm of the original trilogy as far as like the weirdness to it. And I liked it for that. I had fun with this movie. This was the first Indiana Jones movie I've seen in a theater, and I feel like it's a good one to see in the theater for your first Indiana Jones. So I have this as a C.
I have this as C as well, but only because I haven't seen it 100 times like I have seen some of these other movies. But this movie bangs hard. The opening is absolutely killer. It's Indiana Jones as fuck for the first 20 minutes. And then we get into the present day, and this movie has a really solid way of showing how someone needs to rediscover their usefulness in advancing age. Mm-hmm. And thankfully for us, that usefulness is getting in a big-time kick-ass action movie. And so the sequences in Tangier are fantastic. The end is absolutely wild. Total chaos, mayhem. It is primo. I just love this movie. I can't wait to see it again. I've seen it twice already. And he's great. The return to form I think James Mangold brought was definitely needed. So C, but could go higher if we did this in another 6 months.
Right.
Yeah, so this is averaging out to be a C. So I'm moving everything around to accommodate that. So putting it as a C, I'm probably going to put this.
Well, I'm with the commentator there. You've ranked Rise of Skywalker very high for getting 2 C rankings.
Technically, Rise of Skywalker should be in the C tier as well.
So Indiana Jones, I'm going to put at the tail end of C. Would we like to move anything around since we are at the end of this list? Is there anything that we feel like deserves to be higher than it actually is?
Adam, should I speak for both of us and let you go?
What was that question?
Should I speak for both of us and let you go?
What was the question? Yes.
Oh, we're gonna re-rank now at the end. We just do a little shuffling if we feel it.
Please, you may Paul, you may speak for me any day of the week unless we're talking about Rise of Skywalker. But for this opportunity, you can speak for me on Rise of Skywalker as well.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, there's only 2 Harrison Ford experts on this earth that I trust, and it's you and me, and so I have to go. So, Paul, do what you do.
Well, Adam, it was a pleasure having you here. Thank you for joining us on this. You have a great evening, sir.
Adam Witt.
I will.
Adieu.
I bid you. Oh, I do. I owe you a gin.
All right.
I mean, I'd say easiest thing, based on obviously the math of what happened there, I think we got at the very least switch Blade Runner and Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, I agree with that.
You want to put Blade Runner lower?
It's not that higher. Look at where Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, Rise of Skywalker. Okay, yeah. I would agree with that.
Not my opinion, but just based on the math of what we were working out.
Yeah.
We're nothing if not fair.
Yeah, I actually think it's a pretty good list. I mean, I would put Blade Runner higher than its sequel, but you make an argument against that that's pretty worthy, so it's fine. I got no fiery protest.
I personally like the original Blade Runner more than the sequel, but I'm okay with the fact that they're right neck to neck with each other in the same tier line. So
yeah, I didn't know there was ranking within the tiers, but as long as they're in the same tier,
technically there is. I don't have the ability to narrow it down that much. I'm just gonna take a pure average. This is where I think amongst them. So
for me, I mean, this feels pretty comfy, honestly.
Yeah, this is how I've softened that Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is not in the very basement. I'm pretty impressed with myself that I've come around on that. There's much good in it.
Yeah. Anyways, that is going to be our list. Real quick, so I do want to read off. We did get a Streamlabs from Commentating Nerd. I want to go through his list because he did submit his in. Granted, his wasn't following the rules of 3 per tier, which I will be fixing in the future. This has come up a couple of times, and this is completely on me and my fault for not saying this.
Got to put out the rules beforehand too.
We just so if you are a part of our Patreon, You do see the list of movies we're ranking on our Discord, even if you're at the $1 Patreon tier. So he did rank them based off of knowing that list, but what I have yet to do is post what the rules are. So I'm going to go based off of how he has it set up. S tier, he's got Last Crusade, Raiders, Jedi, New Hope, Empire, and Blade Runner all in the S tier, which I can't fault him for that. That sounds like a solid S tier. There's no A. He didn't include A in this. Or no. Sorry, it's all on the same line. Let me rephrase. So S tier, he's got Last Crusade, Raiders, and Jedi. A tier is New Hope, Empire, and Blade Runner. Got it.
Gotcha.
B tier, we got 2049, Force Awakens, Fugitive, and Temple of Doom. C tier, Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, and Air Force One. D tier, he's got Dial of Destiny, Ender's Game, and Rise of Skywalker. And then F tier, of course, is Crystal Skull and Cowboys and Aliens. I feel like we've pretty much nailed that pretty closely here. So
feels fair.
Yeah,
feels fair.
Anyways, let's go ahead and remove the marquee. Let's have Carl go ahead and take that down, and let's get back to our normal positioning. That didn't work at all. How is this? Oh, because Adam left.
Also, Adam left.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
All right. Well, we'll do it like this then. So, that is going to be this marquee. Paul, thank you. Thank y'all for being here.
It's funny. Just recently, we started ranking the movies just for our own show. So I had half the rankings in place, but then our show hasn't gone past. We've posted recently the Witness episode, but the one we've done on our live stream on Mondays, where we're gathering information for the show, we've gotten up to The Fugitive. So all the ones you had past that, I had to really think about. But I was halfway there already because we've been ranking, like I said, on our own show just for fun. So,
yeah,
glad you got it thinking ahead, because we'll have to do those. We'll have to do shows about Cowboys and Aliens and Ender's Game eventually. So I'll have to have some thoughts.
I would like to come back and revisit this again when we're doing more of like Harrison Ford's, like maybe his dramatic movies or. Sure. Yeah, so we could throw in stuff like, I don't know if I would necessarily call Witness an action movie.
Yeah, like, somebody did in the chat, but I think it's not. It's there's a gunfight at the end, but other than that, it really isn't. It's more the delicate balance of him trying to just foil this, trying to get to the bottom of this murder, but also living amongst the Amish, and having to balance that. So it's a great performance. It's not surprising it's his only Oscar nomination. It's so good.
Yeah, I want to watch that as well. So I would love to revisit
Great rewatch. Yeah, great rewatch.
Of course, we kind of time these in regards to what movies are coming out because, like, say, for example, Dial of Destiny just came out. So therefore, it's very popular on YouTube to be talking about Harrison Ford. So that's why this is geared specifically for Harrison Ford ranking of action and sci-fi. So we can include Dial of Destiny. That being said, I'll go ahead and let everyone know next month, for almost the same exact reason, we will be doing the tier ranking. I believe, I feel like we shuffled around the day for next month, Chris.
It's towards the end of the month, yeah.
Chris Nolan?
Tom Cruise? Are we doing 20? I think we're doing the 28th. So 28th, not the... Yeah. And Paul, you got it. You nailed it right there.
It's Barbie.
Tier ranking. Yeah, we're going to tier rank Barbie movies, including all the direct-to-DVD or video.
Barbie of Swan Lake. Get ready. It's S tier.
Oh, no, we will be tier ranking Christopher Nolan movies. So even if you're not a part of the Patreon, kind of obvious, just go look at Christopher Nolan's filmography. We're doing all the movies he directed.
There's about 12 of them. Probably 13 with Oppenheimer, I think, maybe.
Yeah, boy, I got an A tier right out of the gate.
Yeah, we are going to be including Oppenheimer on that, and I think we're starting with The Following. I can't remember if he has like another movie before that, but
no, starting with Following. Yeah,
Following and the Memento, right? And then you're off to the races.
Yep. So that is next month. So yeah, catch up on those Christopher Nolan movies and join us for the Marquee at the end of July. Should be a lot of fun. There's only a few movies I know I have to catch up on. So yeah, we're going to have a blast with that one. Anyways, as far as this tier ranking, again, I'm going to clean up that image. I'll get that posted onto social media tomorrow for everyone to have their field day on telling us whether or not we were right or wrong. We had the movie guys on here, so I'm almost certain that we were 100% completely correct on our rankings of all of these movies.
Yeah, well, you guys got in there and had opinions as well, so it kind of messed it up a little bit. But other
Anyways, Paul, it was a pleasure having both you and Adam join us on this. The second we realized that we wanted to do a Harrison Ford tier ranking, the first thing that came to mind, movie guys, we got to get them in for this.
We have a brand of sorts now, don't we?
Yeah, I don't know of anyone else that knows as much as about Harrison Ford as you guys. So
it literally is this. We either had you guys or it was just the two of us doing this ranking on our own.
And as you can see, I don't think the two of us on our own would have given like Harrison Ford's filmography the proper respect that it needs to. Because I mean, you do, as much as I'm not a fan of like the Indiana Jones or the Blade Runner movies, those movies are good movies and they do deserve respect. Those are completely just my own personal bias in how I watch and interact with movies. So yes.
I don't care about Lord of the Rings. I mean, that happen.
And I've said that before. I'm not a big fan of like medieval fantasy, so I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan either. At this point, I'm starting to question why I decided to do a movie YouTube channel, but thank you for pointing. But anyways, what would you like to plug, sir?
Oh, just at The Movie Guys everywhere, themovieguys.net. You'll find all the podcasts, the Ford Fiesta. We're just wrapping up Countdown to 5, which was a countdown show for the new indie movie, a quick 5-episode. Plus, we'll do 1 episode now post-watching Dial of Destiny. So quick 6 episodes, easy to watch, but fun to dive back into those indie movies. But the Ford Fiesta is great. Who knew there were 7 movies before American Graffiti that Harrison Ford did? And we go through them, and it's the most fun you can have with a movie you've never heard of. Not to mention reviews and our appearances all over podcasts, and all sorts of stuff. It's all at themovieguys.net. Plus, you'll find info about the movie locations tour I give, the Ghostbusters party that I could throw you with my full-size 20-foot Ghostbuster Ecto-1 vehicle, the movie trivia nights I run cross country. So lots of fun to be had at themovieguys.net.
I would love to do one of your tours.
Yeah.
Whenever we visit LA again at some point.
Come on out.
I know like a lot of what caused us to have to go out to LA was Schmodown events, and now that that's no longer happening, I would like to come back out to LA because of the friends that we've met through the Schmodown. I would very much love to do one of your tours. So that is definitely so. If you're in the LA area, go hit them up for those, because that's always something. Anytime I visit a new place, I'm like, what movies were filmed here? I want to go see those sets.
Yeah, and we'll take you there to it's a private tour, so it's only places from movies you love, not movies you haven't heard of or movies you hate, which is even worse. Like you take a TMZ tour, they'd have to tell me about the Kardashians, and I am going to be actively not giving a shit. But with my thing, it's just the stuff you want to check out, so you can check. It's like a big pizza ingredients list. You just go, oh yeah, Karate Kid, Back to the Future, hell yeah. Oh, count me in on. Better Off Dead. Oh, Boogie Nights. Yeah. So it's all just your favorites.
That is awesome. I might actually want to try to schedule a trip out to LA just to do that. And of course, go to Philippe's because they have fantastic sandwiches. So
is that the French dip place?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely love them.
Not a sponsor, but they might as well be.
Not a spot. Yeah, every time except for one time that we went to LA for the awards draft at the Comedy Store, every time we've gone to LA, we've gone to Philippe's. So yeah, it's a staple of the Cinefanatics visit.
We got every kind of food possible here. Yeah. It's crazy.
I would love to go back to LA just for food and the movie tour. So highly recommend check that out. Guys, a lot of the movie guys stuff, their information is down below in the description, so make sure you follow them on all their places that they are at. As for everyone watching, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. We very much appreciate all of y'all watching. If you're watching this on a replay, let us know your thoughts, feelings, and opinions. Feel fear to judge me on my Indiana Jones. Feel free to judge me on my Indiana Jones and Blade Runner opinions down below in the comments. While you're down
Robert
there, make
is
sure
wrong at gmail.com, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I might actually start that. While you're down there, make sure you hit like on the video and subscribe to us. So we're doing a lot of fun things. We are on a hiatus now for a couple of weeks as far as tagline goes. We'll still knock out some movie reviews as they pop up and trailer reactions as we can get to them. But otherwise, yeah, that's going to be it down below. So anyways, make sure you follow us at The Cinefanatics on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me personally at Robert Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and YouTube.com/@RobertAdamsMLP. Chris?
And you can follow me at Chris Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, as well as twitch.tv/ChrisAdamsMLP.
Anyways, that's going to do it for tonight. We will see you for the Marquee at the end of next month for Christopher Nolan. Go watch all of his movies and join us for that. Should be a fun time. Anyways, we will see y'all when we see you. Good night.
Get off our plane.
Or our string.
Yeah.